up, y'all? Kofi Kingston here, and I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, depending on what that drink is, preferably non-alcoholic, you know?
How's it going? I'm Celtic Warrior Shaman.
Soda.
I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Maple syrup.
Fella.
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Welcome to the dive bar of the IWC. We are Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is our first show because we can't get episode 1 right, so we can't move on to episode 2 yet. That's just the way of the world. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm at Ref Marsh. With me today to break down WWE. No news today, which is good news if you ask me. But we got Sports Beard. Say hello, man.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Cheers to the beard. And our guest today, Kevlar, could not make it. If I had to venture a guess, the Cardinals were in the playoffs during the same time of at least one wrestling show, and there's no way he watched wrestling that night. And he's a very busy man otherwise. So if I had to venture a guess, Kevlar is a bit under the weather as the Cardinals were booted out of the playoffs, rightfully so. So we got Bishop from Terrible Wrestling Takes. What's up, Bishop?
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me back on. I am Bishop from the Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast, twtakespodcast.com for all platforms, twtakespodcast.com/TWTs for the dopest, lowest prices, fastest shipping merch in the podcast game. Check me out at twtakespodcast on Twitter. Other than that, I'm here to have some fun. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. TWT Takes.
I did get those shirts like insanely fast.
That's what I do.
Yeah, they were
Lowest
quick.
price to ship, fastest shipping. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Marsh too.
When I ordered them too, he gave me tracking number the same day they arrived. And I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
if you were waiting on this or if it was just faster than you thought.
They came quick, man.
Yeah.
Story of my life.
Beard. Are the Cardinals out of the playoffs? Did they shit the bed on that?
Yeah, they're out.
Good.
They got beat by the Rams, correct? I think
That's what
the
I
Rams
thought.
the Rams look like they could go like win the whole thing. They have a pretty talented team, so
Yeah, when I tuned in, it was like 30-2, and I was all like, Kev's not making the show this week.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's the first time in a long time they've had a Monday night playoff game. It might be the first time ever. So
I
it's
heard it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had it in the 70s. I heard a radio show talking about they had it back in the 70s or even the 80s when the Sunday was Christmas Day and they played on Christmas Eve, and then the day after Christmas were the games. It happened like 2 or 3 times in the 70s and 80s,
Yeah,
but
they played on. They don't have that affliction of playing on Christmas anymore. The NBA does it, and they do really well. And I think this year they did have games on Christmas. So
sure did.
yeah,
Sure did.
All right.
of course they
All right,
always have
that's fun.
Thanksgiving. Yeah,
And was the 70s before it was officially coined Monday Night Football?
Probably.
so I think the Super Bowl era is right around that time. So we're at what 56 Super Bowls now. Before this Super Bowl era, it was AFL, NFL. Like they had an NFL championship, but they didn't have the Super Bowl or anything like that. So then those two leagues merged, and yeah.
Okay.
So
All right. Just always a good time to learn behind Kevlar's back. Let's do a little bit real quick. Grim Reaper in the chat says, hi. 'Cause that's how he talks. And
What up,
Just in
Grim
Time
Reaper?
coming through says, look at this trio. Cheers, my friends. Cheers to Just in Time. Thank you for
Cheers.
coming through the dive bar. Speaking of cheers, what's in your glass? Let's start with the guest. What's your terrible wrestling drink, Mr. Bishop?
Just water. Just water. Water tonight.
There you go. There you go. It's not about what you're drinking. It's who you're drinking with. We're still your drinking buddies, no matter what's in your glass. Beard, what do you got?
yeah, I had some green tea with honey and just taking it. It's a nice cold winter day here.
Yeah.
Getting
Got a little
snow.
throat problem? You clearing up the throat a little bit?
Yeah, I woke up with a little bit of a dry throat, but that's kind of typical with the cold. You know, the winters are so dry, so
Good call.
got to have the humidifier on half the time. So
No. I'm taking it light today too, but it's Miller light. Because
it's Miller time.
yeah, it's Miller time. Just time to hang out. Don't need to go too heavy, too fast. I feel like last week, the show got away from me on my own. Not that the show fell apart, but that there was part of the show where I go, I wonder how the end turned out. So I figured, take it easy today. And let me just do a quick shout out before we get into things. First time, long time. Don't call it a comeback. We got Flow State Coffee, guys. New wave coffee. Flow State Coffee is specialty grade coffee with L-theanine and rock cacao for creativity, productivity. Gives you better energy, focus, and mood than a regular cup of coffee while decreasing negative side effects like jitters and crash, high blood pressure, or anxiety. Go to newwave.co and put in promo code CHEERS for 10% discount on any ongoing deals they have over there, guys. Coffee for the productive and creative. So it's a good time. And the owner is indie wrestler. He was trained by Lance Storm. So support local wrestling. That's what I say. Buy coffee.
It's good stuff too.
Well, it's really good stuff.
I still drink my cold brew at work.
Yeah.
I have to order pretty soon, to be honest.
Dude, they had a Christmas deal where it was like 30% off and our code worked. So there was like a time during Christmas you could have got 40% off, it was crazy.
Nice.
And then real quick birthday shout out. R-Truth turned 50 today. Happy birthday, R-Truth.
He's that old, huh?
Yeah.
Fucking guy looks 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
even at 25, I didn't look like that.
I know.
Yeah. No, that dude's a beast. He's a monster. He's amazing. Hysterical. He's one of those ones where they keep saying, never say never, or they talk about, lifers who weren't lifers with WWE. He's one dude that I just can't imagine not being around WWE. Like, it's hard to fathom what that might look like otherwise. Even though he did amazing things in TNA and he was the NWA champion for a period of time, at this point he's such like a fixture there. And every clip you see backstage with him and Vince is just so gleeful, like a kid giggling the whole time. You just think that Vince just loves the dude. So
he did a great interview on Cheap Heat on how he got into the business and really why his career intersects with music and all that stuff and his origins and all that. And I've heard some of it before, but this was really the 14-year-old to 50-year-old interview. Kind of told that whole story, and it's a fucking awesome story. And to see how positive he is on TV, I just wish I had my shit together at 37 opposed to 50. So I'm working on it.
Yeah, and then he had a chronicle or a 24 or something along those lines. If you find it about maybe it wasn't 24, but there's something on Peacock that it's one of those ones, Chronicles or something, and he talks about it's almost all about how he got in, and it shows old footage of stuff, and he goes back to his old hometown, and he goes back by his old house and everything, and talks to those kids in the neighborhood, and it was just really emotional. It was so good. So if you don't know his story, it's definitely worth looking up and expanding on it.
Oh. Yeah, I definitely am gonna take you up on that one.
And they're short, dude. I want to say that Chronicle was like 25 minutes or something like that, and by the end of it, you're just kind of like, no, this should be a movie. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think I have news.
Well, you want to do belated birthday wishes to our guest, Bishop?
I mean, he was being a dick about it, so we
I
have
was.
to now.
I was. No, last
Cheers
year.
And happy birthday to Bishop from Terrible
Thank
Wrestling
you.
Takes. I hope your birthday was fucking terrible.
It was close, but
He did drop how old he was on the thing, and you started with R-Truth's birthday, so I thought.
yeah.
true.
No, I appreciate that.
That's a good point.
No,
But,
last year you waited all episode until I finally jumped in the chat and you were like, happy birthday. I was like, oh man, thanks. That's so cool. And then this year you were like, yo, you're going to love this episode. I was like, cool. And I'm like, wait, he didn't say happy birthday.
Yeah. No, I had it written down last year.
Yeah, true.
Last week, the drinks got away from me quick.
Nah, it's all good,
So
man. I appreciate it. I appreciate
wrote
being
more
on and you guys doing that.
Buy
Where are
him
candles?
a belated birthday cupcake by going to TWT's and getting yourself
One of these.
Well,
couple of
Veer
t-shirts.
Mahan is news. He's coming to Raw. I don't know if you noticed that.
Breaking news. This is
Yeah.
true.
Like, that's
Announced
news.
on Raw. Veer is coming to Raw. I think this is tremendous.
Yeah. I swear to God, I saw. Didn't he wrestle for a while? Like he was wrestling.
Yeah,
That's where they got those clips
like-
from.
but it was on
Like,
SmackDown. He was wrestling
on
SmackDown.
the show. Yeah, was it SmackDown? Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember.
He must
Thought it was
be.
both.
Do you guys think he has an injury or something, and that's why it's taken so long, and they just don't want you to forget about the character? And they didn't have a good kayfabe story in place for him not being out. I
That's
wonder
possible.
if that you think that's a likelihood with him.
I think it's possible. It also could be possible that travel could be a potential issue if he had gone back home. I think his family still lives in India. I don't think he does, but I think his family does. So it's possible he could be a travel issue they're keeping, because they have in the past kept these like vignettes going. Like the thing with Saray being off TV for a while was because she was away. Now they're starting to do vignettes of her. I forget who else had a few of them, and we found out it's because they were nursing an injury and were expected back soon. But you're right. I just think the problem with the theory, not from your perspective, but from WWE's perspective, is you want to keep it fresh in our minds, but you hadn't done much with them prior. So it's fine.
Yeah.
You could have repackaged them all together. You could have done whatever you wanted. Like, it was a very small, limited thing. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I just keep wondering. I mean, it makes sense. They just want to keep him in our consciousness if they're trying to give him a big push or whatever. It's just so funny because it's felt like a year he hasn't been on.
It's been a long
You know, it does feel like SummerSlam. I don't know. I saw him doing something. I don't know.
I feel like the move that they should do next is have him show up at Rumble, and then the following Monday again play a video saying coming to Raw.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. As I thought maybe they're showing him that he is going to be in the Rumble, right? I mean,
Yeah,
But it's
well, that's
still
the thing. If
ahead.
he shows up in the Rumble, then they're lying, right? And we all know WWE doesn't lie to the customer, right? They might say card subject to change, which might be at the bottom of that vignette, but you know, to be honest, if he shows up at the Rumble, doesn't show up on Raw, the only way you get out of it is by playing the vignette again, going, he's coming to Raw.
Coming
yeah.
to Raw.
Yeah, I don't know.
You saw
man.
him at Rumble. Now
it's
wait till
just-
you see him on Raw.
Oh,
So
Beard
you
wasn't
guys
around.
don't think he'll come to the Rumble then?
Oh,
I think it's possible. I do think it's possible
Yeah.
that he's just one of the entries in there, and people blow the roof
Dude.
off the place because they can't believe he made it.
Beard wasn't around for Evolution, or not Evolution. What was the other one
yeah.
with Tennille Dashwood? What was that one?
Oh, Emelina.
Emelina, yeah. So this whole thing with Emma, who I actually liked her character. It was like this secret agent kind of glove wearing, you know, kind of badass. Wasn't
All
that
about
great in the ring.
me.
And she was doing this complete makeover into Emelina, where she was going to be more of the, you know, model, attractive, you know, Lana type. And then she came out once, and then they just scrapped the whole thing, and she went back to vignettes for something else. What if that's this? What if he comes out once, is like, fuck it, comes out as the pitcher and his real name, you know, wears a baseball cap and fucking everything.
Do like the goon, but baseball. Has a baseball
Yeah.
glove while he wrestles.
Yep. He'll be the mitt.
Yeah, like a catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
And people go
I mean,
like, he wasn't even a
hopefully-
catcher.
I'm not rooting against the character. Hopefully they do good. I mean, it seems like that whole India stable of wrestlers they don't know what to do with right now. It seems like they all kind of had their, like, I know that who's the guy that was the champion for a minute? Like
Jinder Mahal.
Jinder Mahal, right? Sorry, thank you. Bishop, I couldn't, his name was.
That's what I'm here for.
But like he's like they're not doing anything with his character. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I haven't seen Finn Balor in forever. I thought he actually had an injury, like a real injury. Did he get a real injury?
Jinder or Balor?
No, Finn Balor, sorry.
Because Jinder's had a
He
couple.
just wrestled.
Yeah, he's been wrestling the last few weeks, but before that, he's saying, because there was kind of that spot
Wow.
between the Roman thing and Finn
Yeah.
coming to Raw. There's a few vignettes. I wouldn't be shocked
just
if there
think-
was some sort of a
Yeah.
strain or something. I wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
if that-
no, I mean with the COVID thing, like we haven't even discussed that. Like some of those wrestlers, even though they could have got long COVID or something too, that's another thing. And then you guys brought up like Veer. when we were talking about Veer specifically, if he went back to India, there could have been visa issues just getting him back. Cause I know they had they ran out of fuel to burn the dead. That's how bad it was getting there.
Wow.
In India for the Delta variant. I know they were having some problems. So, and
Well, I mean, and I'm wildly speculating. I have no idea, obviously, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like,
it could be anything.
who knows?
well,
I don't.
It's just weird because they're keeping him in our conscious by running the vignettes, right? So I think that's why we're all like, whoa, what's going on with him? This is weird. Because they don't do that with anybody else, really. They've never, they'll do like the heel thing like they did with Stone Cold when he got hurt. He's around or he's working with Vince or whatever. Didn't work really well, but he couldn't wrestle, but he could do like sort of what they're doing with Seth Rollins quite a bit, except for he's actually wrestling.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, the Veer thing is more about debuting the wrestler. The Stone Cold thing is he's so popular, we got to leave him on TV.
Yeah,
I do think at one point when they do debut Veer, then it's still going to be a wait and see game anyway. It's going to be about, does this meet the expectations? But also keeping the vignette every once in a while, as much as it's keeping in our consciousness, I do think it is kind of tempering expectations a bit. This isn't going to be a Braun Strowman work with jobbers thing until he's ready for the world title. This could be very possible. Just jump right in with Apollo Crews kind of thing instead of earn your way through tag team split up. It could be anything. But I don't mind still seeing the vignettes. I know a lot of people hate it. Justin even said something in the chat about, how people kind of speculate about all the bullshit that's happening and why that makes it entertaining as well. It just is what it is. It's a segment that shows that at some point they're going to give a shit about him. And when they did this with Lars Sullivan, it completely failed because Sullivan's a dickhead. So this guy, he's going to have what seems like the same opportunity to shine. And hopefully when he gets the opportunity, he succeeds. We just got to wait for it.
They want to have a certain reaction when he shows up, and by feeding us those, they're hoping to get that. Yeah, Justin in the chat did say, Veer coming to Raw might be my favorite thing right now, simply because of all the funny ways people have come up with as to why he's not there yet. Which sure, it's like a meme online now. Veer's coming to Raw, but his car broke down, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And then was it someone showed a picture of The Simpsons, and it was like Veer standing outside, trying to bum a ride to the show, and they were both like side eyeing him like they didn't want him to get in the car, kind of a deal. Like, Grimper said they should post his debut on Instagram. That's what they did with fucking Harry Smith.
Yeah.
His debut showed up on WWE.com exclusive, and then just never saw him again, and then he was released, and you're like, okay.
Say that didn't track well though.
Yeah, didn't turn out.
I mean, so let me ask you guys this. This is a curious question because we saw like a bunch of like Karrion Kross and all these guys come from NXT, and then all of a sudden they were gone. It does, like, if you were going to get rid of them, it makes no sense to debut them. And then it almost looks worse for the WWE. Don't you think? Like, yeah. I feel like that don't even bring them from NXT and then just to release them. Like, I don't know. What was the group, the rap group kind of Hit Row gone. Yeah. They introduced them and then they're like gone. I was like, oh, well, I didn't even need to get to know Hit Row because they were hit the road.
Yeah, but in kayfabe, they disrespected Sammy, and Sammy said he was the gatekeeper to SmackDown, and then they were released later. So in kayfabe, Sammy had them fired.
No, I think that's a bigger discussion, and I think it's probably better suited for tomorrow night's show since you guys do NXT then, because I think that's actually an NXT discussion and why NXT 2.0 is the way it is. I think that there was, and of course, just as fans, right, there was a lack of natural progression from developmental quote to main roster. And I think what got lost in the weeds was Black and Gold NXT was actually a finished product. It's what AEW is. They were basically the same shows. One had better cameras. And if I had to project the way a lot of the IWC does, is that when Vince was getting call-ups, he saw something that wasn't able to budge. When you look at everything they did with Keith Lee, he could not land on how do we make this work for Raw. He tried different things. It never worked. Karrion Kross, they were doing the same thing. How do we get this developmental talent to now fit better on Raw? And the way that NXT 2.0 is presented now is as if these characters are going to flow better into what the main roster is going to be, because there's going to be nuance in what's being developed as opposed to finished talent with nowhere to grow. And that's why I think a lot of what we saw, I mean, Hit Row, I think, is an anomaly. I kind of believe the rumors, especially with, I had some, not necessarily back and forth with Top Dollar online. I posted specific things to him, and he liked those specific comments opposed to some, and it was basically off of the rumors that he upset people in the back by standing up for BFAB. And the one that he liked in particular was, not sacrificing your integrity. So I would think it's safe to assume that Top Dollar actually did ruffle too many feathers, and that's why Hit Row's gone. Not because they couldn't assimilate to SmackDown, because I think we can kind of all agree that they fit in pretty well on SmackDown for what they did. So, as far as like how these guys got called up before, it's not going to be the same when they get called up again. I think they have a different eye on what 2.0 is going to lend to the main roster.
Well, was a couple other guys though too, like Karrion Kross, like kind of the similar thing was done with.
But
him.
everything's changed. So like,
Yeah.
After Karrion Kross lost the title to Samoa Joe, NXT went into the 2.0 direction, and nobody's been called up from 2.0 to assimilate to the main roster. So
Well,
ever since
Theory,
He was right
Good
before
point.
2.0.
but he actually really didn't do anything on 2.0. So he's part of being plucked. But it's a great point because he is one. But you see what they're doing, how much effort they're putting in on screen to put him in a particular position. Yeah. So, and again, the rest of what I kind of have to say is so NXT heavy that I don't want to get into it.
because I don't watch it.
Wednesday night show.
But I think also, so one of the problems I have with the constant conjecture as to why this person was released or that person was released, or why all the releases are happening specifically when the big grand perspective comes out, is I think that it's pretty easy to find someone who was released who doesn't fit that bill every time. There's always somebody that you can point to and say, but that person was released and it doesn't work for them. I think there's so much going on into the releases that are so beyond just one particular big scope. I think there's a lot more smaller case scenarios than I think people realize.
Just puzzling
with
to
the grand
have
vision.
It's just puzzling for me as a fan coming back to it, to have someone make a debut and then to release them. I don't think you should do that. It's confusing for a new fan. Basically,
it's confusing for us.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. And I get it. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And we believe that some of them were like, you don't want to get the jab, you're gone, because we, the Mecca for us is New York, and New York has all those Raw. And we're seeing that play out in the NBA in real time. And I'm seeing on message boards, people like, F an NBA. I go, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. The NBA didn't mandate vaccines. The state of New York did, and New York City in specifics. So because it's not every state did that. And when everybody was losing their mind, I said, guys, the Supreme Court is going to rule on this, and it's not going to be mandatory. I got exemptions for flu shots when I was in high school and stuff. And a lot of people go, why'd you do that? I go, well, it was religious reasons. But when I was living on my own, it was because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to go get the shot, whatever it cost, $10 or whatever. So it's like, when I was in the Army, they stick you with everything. You don't have a choice. So it's like, here you go, buddy. Take this peanut butter and the ass shot. You may go to Southeast Asia at some point in your career.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. But yeah, I that's what I mean. I think that it's such a broad spectrum of people. Because you could even say, because so many people saying things like, how could you not have something for this person? Creative couldn't find something for that person. Well, that's not also necessarily I don't A, believe it's all budget cuts, and I don't B, believe it's all because they didn't have something for them creative. I also think sometimes the talent doesn't want to do the creative, which is totally fine. I think sometimes they have creative for them. Look at Alistair Black and Bray Wyatt specifically. Both of them were on TV recently. Alistair Black, when he was released, had a shirt on pre-order and was in his 5th vignette and had just showed up to cost Big E a title. So the idea was clearly that they were moving in a direction, and then he was released before he had a match advertised for the next week. So you couldn't say they didn't have anything for him.
Yeah, so he was released. So I came on after all this stuff. He was released. He didn't leave the WWE for AEW. He was released.
Correct.
Okay. I did not know that. I know he's one of their bigger stars, or he's the dude that puts black stuff over his eyes. He looks kind of like a Celt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I had a question.
It's so confusing.
Both.
It's just all confusing.
Yeah. And so it's good to hear you guys, the guys who are like that. It doesn't make any sense to you either.
Yeah.
I think that was my question is like, would you prefer them like? For me, like just for the sake of just to have them be released, like why bring them up? That it is. Yeah. It's almost like they made the decision too late, like executively. Oh, we should release these guys. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I agree with that. I'd rather not see them than have them released after 2 weeks.
Yeah, it just makes it so confusing. Here's my question. I remembered specifically for both you guys. Don't you feel like they actually are ready, even with all the releases and stuff? The rosters are still really saturated. Like, so it's still hard to get a lot of stuff plugged out in a 3-5 hours a week if you don't count like AJ Styles going to NXT and stuff like that. It just feels like they have so many good people that they just don't have enough time for. Because like I was like, man, I really like this quad match and stuff with Becky Lynch and Doudrop and all that. And I'm glad they're pushing the women's stuff really good. It's just like, I don't know, man. What do you guys feel?
No, it's a fair point. I agree. I mean, again, myself and Justin talked about even just the NXT side of it about, well, why can't they have 2 NXT shows? One with all this polished talent and one with these developmental ones, because they had so much talent and good content, good wrestling, good vignettes. There's always an opportunity to create more optics, but at least for me, the reason why I don't watch AEW is there's so much match, so little story, so little like pull me in, so little to invest in besides cool shit to watch. And when WWE has to take the time to tell the story through, especially throughout the night, when they thread it throughout the night, like they do with the Brock Lesnar stuff, and they were doing with Drew McIntyre. One of the things they did better was they would put him, in a couple little spots here and there throughout the entire night. And, when Brock Lesnar was on top back in the day, it was like, well, when is he going to show up? That was the whole thing. But now they're telling stories throughout the night that keep you threaded. In doing that, it sacrifices from seeing people wrestle. And you have to be, I mean, look, that's the whole thing with Veer. We know who Veer is off of 30-second vignettes every week, every other week. That's part of it. But tell me, if he's on Raw, where was he wrestling? What part of the show was he going to have a match? The show's full.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I think you're right.
That's what I was asking you guys. It just feels like they don't have room for anything else. Like they had to get rid of a lot of the, I don't want to say dead weight, but like the Street Profits are very similar. Like there's all these similar, you have kind of a similar thing for the one group we talked about, Hit Row. I'm not saying that I didn't see their development or didn't see much from them. I saw them on one episode.
It's the same vibe. It's the same vibe. There's a party element to what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that there's a lot of differences, but I agree that there is a very similar base level like vibe, like you said.
Yeah.
I do think I think the balance is rotating through time off that's not injury based. Like we're getting 9 months or so without Bayley, and it sucks because she's injured. But in that absence, we have a lot of space. We had space for Toni Storm to be getting the push before she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. We have space for Shotzi, whether they're using it or not. We have space for Doudrop and Bianca and Liv, because when you have certain higher star powers, they don't always go with forcing these people in there. They'll just rely on what they know works. People complain a lot about like the repetitiveness of matches and such, but at the same time, would you like, as much as we've seen New Day and Usos, I'm definitely ready for another match between someone else. But am I excited for Cesaro and Mansoor versus the Usos or versus New Day? I'm not excited for it. I'm willing to accept it though. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be more of a balance. I think they should give these guys after a big storyline like a 3-month off to rotate someone else in and kind of almost make it seasonal by talent structure. You know what I mean? Because people talk about having an off season. I don't think you need an off season. I think you just need to give your guys time off. Like rotate that. You know what I mean? Like you would at any restaurant. You might rotate the schedule so people aren't working every day, you know? Grim Reaper says we need more women tag teams. 100%. I was going to talk about that in a bit too. Justin says both main roster shows feel pretty deflated between all the releases. The very few people not on TV and injuries. I think
it's kind of the same thing though. I think he's kind of saying the same thing. There's an abundance. I still think we have an abundance of talent. They're not putting all that talent on TV. So yes. To your point, Marsh, about having the off season, when the Lashley story's over, is Lashley going to be gone for 3 months and we get to see something fresh? Is that deflating, or do we need a better cycling of talent, like you're saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about it. But
so do you think Lashley beats Brock Lesnar then?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh.
But that's fantasy booking. But
you don't know, Ref Marsh? What do you think? I don't.
I think it's a toss-up. I think that it's one of those things where you could easily say no and feel confident, but there's definitely a seed of doubt in there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's really easy to say it's Brock Lesnar, but I think that they've made Lashley strong enough and big enough for long enough that there's no question mark or what the fuck if Bobby wins. You know what I mean? If Bobby wins, it's a different kind of what the fuck. It's, you know what I mean? It's more of a holy shit moment and not what the fuck are we doing here moment. You know what I mean? But not because it's not believable, but because it's Brock Lesnar. And I think that Bobby is absolutely built in a way that he could defeat Brock Lesnar for sure. I lean towards Brock winning, but
yeah. I just think because we were talking, I'm surprised, Bishop. I don't know if was it last episode 1, we were talking about, you know, Brock has been beaten by 5 dudes or something. So yeah, it was interesting. Like if it is,
because look, I don't fantasy book too much because you just don't know. And then if you come up with a really good idea and it doesn't happen, then you get deflated. And it's like, well, then why did I even think about it, right? But to me, it just, if they did the paint by numbers and they did everything predictable until WrestleMania, I still don't think the fans will be let down. For instance, if Lashley finds a way to beat Lesnar with interference or not, doesn't matter. He walks away with the title. Most likely interference because it would be the Usos fucking him over. We get Brock Lesnar, Roman at Mania. Lashley wins the title. Big E wins the Rumble. Big E challenges Lashley for the title one more time at Mania. Like, that's, to me, the simplest way to get out of this ridiculous idea that they're going to unify the titles. Because if Roman doesn't get COVID, there's no talk of unifying the titles.
No,
I don't think that comes up in conversation at all. So I think that story itself is victim of circumstance, but people are running with it so heavy that I don't even think it should be on the table. And the best way to get it off the table is to have Lashley just win the title off of Lesnar. And like Marsh said, it's not in disbelief either. My whole point of Bianca losing the title in 26 seconds to get people to give a shit about her. Lashley as champion looked awesome. He didn't have much steam after one match. He has all the steam.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
So because he's so built now, he looks more credible than ever. And he hasn't been champion. So
it's almost like they're making him a baby face again too. You know, with Lashley.
Turning the Hurt Business away from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Lashley's such a badass. If you didn't hear his After the Bell podcast interview with Corey Graves, it's definitely worth a listen. Lashley is a psychopath. He's a crazy person. Like, the problem with Lashley and Lesnar is that they were born in the 2000s and not like the 1700s or earlier. Like, these are crusaders. They're people who go, it's pretty fucking cool when someone breaks your nose in the middle of a fight, because then you get to see the blood everywhere. And you go, what are you talking about? Pretty fucking cool. It sounds devastating. You know what I mean? Like, these are dudes who go like, oh yeah, that dude rocked me, and it was fucking awesome. And you're like, no, it's not awesome. Like, the way that those two dudes talk about fighting, and Lashley specifically on this interview, you just kind of go like, yeah, you're miswired, man. Like, you should be wrestling tigers, like the way you like fighting. Like, it's insane. So I think absolutely there's every reason to believe that Bobby Lashley could win it. And I think that something has to happen to get that conversation off the table, because the other thing I'm starting to see is people saying, well, if we're building towards champion versus champion at Mania with Brock and Roman, why not build towards champion versus champion with the women and do a Charlotte, Becky Mania there? And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that story needs to be revisited for another like 2 years. I think give it some air and you can come back to it later. But I think outside of that, I don't, for the life of me, understand the obsession with unifying the titles and ending the brand split. It makes no sense. I've never heard an argument that made sense.
Well, doesn't it kind of fall in the line of what we were talking about? They're already both oversaturated with so much talent. Like, you want to dilute it even more by making the brands don't mean anything. Like, oh yeah. I mean, I will say this though. I would be fine with like, I don't know, you have the men and you only have the women's tag team, right, on Raw because you have time for it. Like, and you have the SmackDown and Raw tag team titles, right? So like Usos or SmackDown and what's Alpha Academy or whatever. But like, I would be okay with them moving, but I guess like, you know, you'd have to change them or whatever. I don't know.
Justin had a cool idea of more or less that you keep the championships separated, keep them on their brands, and the challengers flip-flop without a draft.
Yeah, he was saying that last one.
Which I like the idea of that. But the idea of ending a brand split altogether, not on board at all.
Yeah, look, and that was kind of my thing. Like, I remember when, like, again, when I first got back into it, there was no brand split. And it wasn't until Shane came back and that following summer, they did the brand split. And that's me watching for like an entire year and a half. And then I go, oh, this is awesome. And it was never a root for Raw, root for SmackDown. It was, I get to see these guys on Raw. I get to see those guys on SmackDown. And I do think we have a star power problem because there is someone like a Roman, like a Becky, who can help build stars. And it's kind of working as a collective on Raw for the men's division, which is really cool to see, because it really didn't happen with Drew, that everyone got built around Drew. It's starting to happen now in the absence of Drew, which is really odd. And I feel bad in being right about Drew, because, you know, the guy's a specimen, you know what I mean? But like, he's a specimen. He's a solid athlete. I don't like his skill set. And honestly, he's not making anybody better around him. And I think that's evidenced by what we've seen on Raw since he's been gone. But in context of dropping the brand split, okay, you can only have Roman as champion. You can only have Becky as champion because they're the only ones that build stars around them. It would sacrifice. It would
Bayley
sacrifice.
too.
So, well, Bayley too. But again, with her not being around, it's really hard to put her in the conversation.
She was at the Cowboys game.
She was at the Niners game.
She's a Niners fan.
Yeah, I know. I figured she was. But is she from Northern California? Is that where she's from?
She's from the Bay Area, hence Bayley.
Yeah. Oh, I did not know that Bayley was a tribute to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
No, okay, yeah. I saw that she was at the game. So she didn't look like she was coming back anytime soon, to be honest with you. I'm not saying that she didn't look. I don't know. I mean, it just didn't seem like she was, you know. Again,
that part of fantasy booking, like trying to guess when somebody comes back, it also blows a surprise, right? Like somebody, after they announced, you know, all the women that were going to be at the Rumble, somebody put out a tweet of like, here's how you can fill in the rest of the slots. And then on the men's side, here's all the people that I think will be here. It's like, why would you even try to guess? You're going to blow it for yourself.
it's people like to, I think it's a new thing too, Bishop. This isn't just specifically to wrestling. People like to have shit spoiled. They go actively looking for this stuff, like, instead of just enjoying it.
Yeah,
I am with you 100%. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know where that came from in society, where people are like, oh, I want this shit ruined for me. But I mean, like I always say, that some of the best movies I ever saw, the previews were very vague. It didn't have a lot. You know, Independence Day, it's the White House getting blown up. You go see it, you're like, this movie kicks ass.
Yeah.
You know, because you didn't get it ruined. Like, I don't want to say trailers ruin things, but
They do for me.
But
I
they
legit don't watch trailers. I don't watch
Yeah,
trailers
me
at all. It's been probably almost 20 years since I watched a trailer. Because even if I saw something cool in the trailer, I was like, I'm waiting for that moment in the movie too.
Yeah.
And sometimes trailers don't put that in the movie, and I'm like, well, what have I watched the trailer for? Or sometimes I think the Equalizer had the ending in the trailer. I'm like, well, why did I just watch the movie? I saw the ending in the trailer.
Yeah. In Stranger Than Fiction, the big plot point that's the big confusion, that's half of the story of the character trying to figure out what's going on, is explained in 10 seconds in the trailer. I watch the movie and this is how I typically watch movies, is I look at movie posters, and if the movie poster seems interesting, or if it's a brand I know, like if I see Ant-Man, I'll just check out Ant-Man because I know what Ant-Man is. But otherwise, I look at movie posters, and if it seems intriguing or has a cast I like, I'll watch it. But I saw the Stranger Than Fiction movie and thought it was incredible. Then I saw the trailer and thought that would have ruined the whole thing.
Right. Right.
Let's see, real quick. Just in Time is saying, technically, wouldn't that be ending the brand split, though, in a sense? Because if you think about it, it's only the titles exclusive to the brands, but all the talent isn't. But you'd still be... So there's two sides to that, I think. So one, you can either make the brand split mean more by giving it the GMs like you had with Stephanie and Shane, where the brand split was literally kids competing with their things. Or you can make the brand split be a little more vague but still definitive, and that's what it would be, is like, hey, I'm going to Raw for 3 months, or I'm going to Raw to get that title. That's the title I want. I'm going to Raw. I'm going to SmackDown because I hate AJ and he's the champ. You know what I mean? Like, you'd still have to go to that brand, and that brand still would be identified by their champion, so they'd still be a split. But you'd probably have more storyline reason between shifting, other than just once a year we shake them up a little bit. You know what I mean? And it could be more interesting to me.
I think that would make it harder to tell the story, though, because, you know, like the picture I have in my head is like, so like right now it's the Bloodline has 2 sets of titles. It's Nakamura, Intercontinental, and Charlotte, right? Let's say we come out of a pay-per-view and they're standing there on SmackDown. Oh, well, who's the next challengers for this brand's titles? And then the locker room floods out into who's the next contenders, because it's all about the title holders. It almost seems more, not dumbed down, but more actually like too focused on the champions as opposed to secondary stories. Why would there be a secondary story on SmackDown? If all the challengers float, then why is somebody else over here
Staying there.
building a tag team? You know, why is Doudrop and Bianca wrestling each other if it's not going to lead to anything? Unless it's specifically a number 1 contenders match. And then you'd have, 6 number 1 contenders matches because it's all about the titles on the show. I think it would be harder to tell stories.
I think then it falls back on what Kev said before, and one of the things he always thought they should utilize more is the trade. But then you'd need the separation of Pierce on one and Sonya on the other. Hey, I'll trade you Naomi to get her out of your hair. Send me Naomi, I'll send you, I don't know.
It does feel like the writers are being a bit lazy in regards to a lot of that stuff too.
That could be.
Like Adam Pearce giving a shit about the Raw's roster for Survivor Series, but like not SmackDown or vice versa or whatever it was. It's like, seriously, like, I mean, and you know,
well,
just I don't want to be negative about it, but it's like they
No,
could have left all that
blocked you.
out. I don't know. They just could have left that out. We didn't need it. Didn't help the story. I'm with Bishop. I care about the story.
Me too. And I do want to start getting into SmackDown just a little bit. But I do think that a big narrative that is out there and not just specific to you is people saying that the writers are lazy. And something that has occurred to me while listening to the Freddie Prinze Jr. podcast, Wrestling with Freddie, I don't know that it's the writers being lazy so much as the writers almost becoming desperate because they have to get approval by Vince on all of it. So why invest 2-3 days writing on something that gets thrown away and being told you have to redo this in 10 minutes anyways? So it feels like they're bullet pointing stuff just to get it to the next step,
Right.
and they're rushed. So I wonder, I just hate to shit on the writers so much when I think that it might come off as laziness, but I think it might just be a rushed process. Does that make sense?
The
Of no
story
fault of their
itself
own?
lacks depth because they have to get it in, or they got to try to hit with sizzle and then make it up on the fly from there. It's very possible.
Yeah. I just want to defend the writers a little bit. I feel like we, as a fan base, shit on them a lot, and I feel like that it might not be their fault.
No, I think that's fair. I do. I agree with all that. I mean,
But I agree with you.
Systematically saying Vince is the biggest problem that we have.
His process, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard for me to criticize a guy who basically is the business, right? Like,
Yes.
what are you supposed to say? Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, what the fuck? I mean, like if there's somebody else would have done it, you know what I'm saying? Like, the guy is kind of the gold standard for how to run a wrestling business.
I agree, but I agree that I think also that the process as it stands right now, with the staff they bring in as writers right now, comes off feeling lazy when it's probably a lot of hard work that is rough around the edges, and it comes off looking lazy when it's just not at fault of people willing to work hard. And again, I agree with you. It's hard to criticize Vince because how do you tell Vince he hasn't done it the right way? But at the same time, at this point, we might be at a current juncture where, hey, it was a really good run the way you've been doing it, but so much has changed now, we got to do it a different way to get the same output. The output has suffered based off of keeping the process the same forever. But I don't know, man. I don't run a business. Let's talk a little bit about SmackDown as we get into it a little bit. I wanted to know, because we talked about them briefly earlier, Beard, I know you've been tired of Usos and New Day, and they kind of put that to rest a little bit here at the top of SmackDown. I want to know, with them being a little bit moved away, and how much I know you don't enjoy the Usos, how did you feel about the Usos promo and introducing the tag teams the way they were and them on commentary?
Yeah, that was actually cool. I liked it.
Is it entertaining?
Yeah, I thought it was good. It allowed them to kind of breathe a little bit and actually be just themselves.
Yes.
And not the heels all the time, which they're still doing a pretty remarkable job of. But it's, I just, like, for me, they've been running amok now for like the 9 months, that I've been back, and I'm like, okay, this is old hat. It feels old hat. Like, are you going to strip Roman of the title? Probably no. Are the Usos gonna? I just don't see where they're gonna go with them. Like, it feels like it's gonna go on for a while. We're gonna get them for a bit. So,
but at the same time, it still could be entertaining. I was having so much fun watching it. I didn't know if you were going to be able to enjoy it just because of how much you haven't liked them. That you might have just been like, "Fuck them," you know what I mean?
No, I did enjoy it. I thought it was great. No, I think
That's cool.
because of this show and your all's opinions, I always try to go into every little thing that we watch, like, with a different, like a new perspective, and like
Fresh.
not try to be judgy, leave a little bit of the biases aside, because I mean, they're like, again, they're great in the ring. I'm just saying, like, I'm not invested in seeing the Usos and the New Day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
Like, I don't need to see it anymore for a while. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the Usos need to even be the title holders for them to be effective. So I feel like they could do this is something I feel like Bishop maybe was saying this a little bit with the stories. Like, yeah, you could build them around the title, but you could still have good stories where they're not title holders and stuff. I mean, RK Bro was a good story before they were the title holders, and it's still a good story. It's still a great story. And I like the Alpha Academy too. Like, I like the story. They built the Alpha Academy, built their story without a title being a huge. It wasn't like they were obsessed with winning the tag team, but they built an effective story. So,
and you have to be careful with it. I think there's definitely a balance where it works, but there's also a balance where it doesn't. Like notably to me, if you look at AEW, they've got a lot of characters on there that are bigger than the title. That they have a lot of good stories going on that have nothing to do with the title, and thus their main title holder feels less important on their show. And so there is a balance, I think, somewhere in the middle there, where you can't have one person running roughshod with the title forever because it can devalue the excitement over the title, as well as you can't have everybody under the title becoming more important than the title because then it devalues the title. So there's a balance there. I agree 100%.
I think if they found a creative way to get the titles off the Usos, so they can go back to henchmen, or they can go back to, maybe telling a different story. In doing that, they can leave the tag title scene onto somebody more experienced, a la the Viking Raiders, to help build that tag team scene underneath them, because the Usos' value, especially for the last year and change, has been next to Roman, not necessarily as champions. It's just unfortunate that the story itself has to do with how dominant that Anoa'i family is. So if they can find a creative way to get those titles off the Usos without them looking weak to Roman, because that's part of it too, right? The Usos have to hold up to what Roman standards are. Part of that story, if they can circumvent that part of the story, I have no problem with the Usos losing. I have no problem with the Usos moving on to other things, especially since, I like the Viking Raiders. I think they do a good job. I actually think they bring the best out of a lot of their opponents. So it would be nice to see them do things, and we can get secondary storyline with the Usos, because even the Usos are great backstage.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
You know what'd be cool is if you had Seth Rollins cost the Usos the title, and part of their build was Seth being like, not only did I make you, but your whole family flagells on the idea of whether or not I allow them to be successful. I can take away everything from you. Yeah. Your family's nothing without me,
I actually was thinking about this before I came on the show. I actually enjoy the Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns more than I do the Brock Lesnar. Not because I don't like Brock Lesnar and I don't like that storyline. It almost worked out because of the COVID. Like, now we get to see this Bobby Lashley match we probably weren't going to get to see. So that's
and same thing with Seth Rollins. We as fans who were invested for a while, we were ready for Seth Rollins to get out of the stories he was in on SmackDown, so he can get his opportunity at Roman, because we all want this match. This Seth Rollins Roman Reigns with Roman as the tribal chief and Seth is drip god. We wanted it, and then the fucking draft happens, and Rollins goes over to Raw, and that's like the one peeve that us wrestling nerds had, where it's like, fuck, Seth Rollins is over on Raw now. We're not going to get that match, and it was his turn. It was his turn in all the stories that he went through. He finally got over Edge. His next thing was supposed to be next to Roman, and they fucking put him on the other show. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been building, and it's awesome. Kiro's in the chat. He says the Usos brothers in NXT have their own brother cost them the titles. You could do that too. There's a lot but even then, the Solo Sikoa stuff, he even was dropping lines talking about his bloodline and talking about, I forget the other word he used. Talking about being the one, I think. Like, he was using some of their slogans. Right before we dig in a little more on Roman and Seth, I just want to point out, to me, the Usos were so funny to me. When they were announcing everybody.
That was
and
good.
And at the very end, he goes, now don't forget the most important rule of all, we the ones. And then they fucking ran out. Like, it made me laugh because I was expecting a do this or don't do that kind of a deal. Like, don't forget we're the, you know what I mean? But he just said, we the ones. Like, fucking cracked me up.
It was good. I actually really liked that promo a lot. And I like funny.
Yeah, it was really funny to me. And like you said, they come off so natural. McAfee on commentary there was awesome. Cesaro was starting to swing on the Viking Raider, and Jinder knocks him out. And McAfee just goes, I don't know who Jinder just saved there. He was like, Cesaro was.
Yeah, that was a good match too. That was a good match. Like, credit to that match.
Yeah. And Viking Raiders are dope, so I'm happy about them too. Let's see, the Naomi Sonya stuff. they finally gave us a reason, because I know you guys have been talking about that. What's the reason? I know some people were unhappy with the reason. To me, it didn't bother me because it was pretty basic, but still with a reason. Because Sonya's reason behind her hating Naomi was, you come in here with your main character vibes, in quotes, when we know you're just an extra. So basically, her issue with Naomi is ego-driven. You feel like you're more important than I perceive you. I'm your boss and an asshole, so now I'm going to not only not do the things you want, but treat you worse than you deserve. Which is, I think, something that happens. But how did you respond to that, Beard? Because you were pretty upset about not having a Y. How do you feel about the Y being ego misconception?
Well, maybe they heard that I said I thought it was full-on race baiting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it an explanation? I fucking didn't think it was. It felt really thin, and for the level of like fuckovery that she's done to her, you didn't give us a good enough reason. You didn't give us a good enough reason. If they ever give Naomi a chance to get her justice, that's when we'll all feel better about it. But I just feel like the whole story, I could have done without it. I mean, or like, give us a reason, like a decent reason. Like she cost her a title years ago or something, like it could be completely made up. But I don't know, like it just was not.
To me, the reason feels like an inferiority complex by Sonya. I know it's like that power's gone to her head, and how does she rationalize just being a bitch to somebody or being an asshole? It's, I don't like your attitude. You think you're more important than I think you are. So it undermines me as a boss. You know what I mean?
I'm so reluctant to be critical of Sonya because of what she went through personally. So I feel like kind that's part of the problem with this. The whole storyline, I'm really
kind of. It's hard to boo Sonya when you know that she's actually a decent human.
Yeah, I mean,
which is why I love it though, because you can see. So this is where I think maybe, Beard, you're a little too far into the weeds. Like, so the way I flip it for myself is knowing that she's gone through that and she has the ability for this performance. I applaud the performance. I don't hate Roman Reigns. Roman's one of my favorite wrestlers, period. He's going to end up as one of my favorite ever. But when he's on TV and he can make me feel like I want him to lose, I'm like, fucking right, dude. So like, I call Sonya daddy because she wants to be known as daddy. She is daddy. But I also go, will you fucking let Naomi in a match? Will you let her get, because her performance commands that reaction out of me. So it's not her, it's the character. So going along for the ride on that character is actually what she wants you to do. It's what they all want you to do. And I think she's killing it. I do wish they would cut bait here and have the payoff, because it's been a really long fucking time. And honestly, Charlotte could use an actual athlete across from her that can defend themselves.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
I agree. And I thought that the Naomi Charlotte match in and of itself was better than most Charlotte matches we've seen as of late. So the idea that they're going to have another match coming up, I'm not hating the idea of.
Right.
It did look like Charlotte actually put effort and not screwing her over in that match. You know what I'm saying?
Because Naomi can defend herself. She's been doing this shit for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Charlotte's not going to pull that shit with other people. I mean, she seems to have like a big sister complex when she's in the ring with Becky. And then Becky just outworks her, but she's not going to do that with someone like Naomi. She might not be a 4 horsewoman, but Naomi was also on the roster for like 6 fucking years before the horsewomen debuted. So she's an OG in this shit, and she's not going to fuck around. I love the optic, and I hope at some point Naomi does get her payoff. Because, I mean, again, we were watching back then, Marsh, when Naomi won her 2 titles, they were awesome moments.
I was in the crowd when she won at Elimination Chamber, and I lost my fucking mind.
I did.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, yeah, producer lady coming through. But do you think, because this is another one I was talking about, this it sounds weird, but the Naomi Charlotte match coming up with the title feels in my mind similar to the Lashley Brock title, where it's like it's real easy to say Charlotte's going to hold on that title, but Naomi is not an unbelievable contender. She can hold the title at any given time. She won the title at WrestleMania before. She's won it off of Bliss.
We all want Naomi to win. We all want her to win. Like, we don't need to sugarcoat this whatsoever.
Yeah. You know, I think when a lot of people complain about, you know, the whole Vince likes this, the Vince wants that thing, this is kind of the only time I get on board. I don't trust any Charlotte storyline. I just don't. I'm so off of any ability to give a shit about what she does that when she finally loses, I'll be like, great. Because we watched so many Charlotte matches last year where we're like, she's about to lose this one. And then she doesn't. And it wasn't a... Because what was the triple threat that she won? Nikki and Rhea, right?
Yeah. Wait, you talking about Charlotte?
Won. Yeah. She was in prime position to lose that triple threat match and won it. And she won it after losing the match. Or that the whole match was set up to where she went. The way it just was structured, I'm like, this lacks so much entertainment that even a quality win here doesn't make sense. And then, you know, she had a quality win in one match that was structured that well. And I'm like, okay. But there's nothing about her matches that I'm just like, well, it makes sense for her to keep it. It just ends up with her keeping it. And it lacks that, like the way Liv and Becky were. It lacked even that suspense. If Liv won that last match, I'd have been like, damn, she really pulled it off. Because the match can flow that way.
Yeah.
Charlotte's matches don't. And it lacks that element of I could be surprised. And I just never am.
I will never, ever, ever forget Becky Lynch after her match with Charlotte. Like, in a non-kayfabe way, just like, talk about the abuse she had just endured in the ring. I will never forget that as a fan coming back and noticing things like that I didn't notice before. Like, you know, that I would have never caught, honestly, on screen in my 20s.
It felt real.
It
felt real.
Exactly. Like she was in a shoot type thing. So like it'll be interesting to hear her thoughts on that for years and years. I am so want Naomi to win the title. We all want Naomi. We need more Naomi and less Charlotte. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I'd be happy if we went into a Rumble where Charlotte wasn't going in as a champion. I don't like any of this Charlotte going in as champion stuff, and we could talk straight into the Charlotte Lita segment because I want to know what you guys thought about that. Beard, last time you saw Lita, she was part of Team Extreme. She came back. She's another one who I mean, to say it nicely, I didn't think she was in. I mean, I don't know. She looks like she's ready for a long run. So it looks like she looks like she's in good shape, but she doesn't look like a beast by any means, you know?
I was shocked to hear what they were maybe going to do with her.
Yeah.
Like if she ends up winning the Women's Rumble and goes to WrestleMania, maybe she feels like too, because she was big time, right?
Yeah.
That she didn't get that moment that some of these female wrestlers have gotten. And I could not believe they're like, it's been almost 20 years. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? It's been that long since she wrestled? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So I thought she's like 50 something. So she looks good, you know?
She gets a really good reaction at the women's rumbles. She does her lead assault in the rumbles. I always get a warm feeling might be the wrong one, but it makes me happy to see her go out there and because she lights up. Yeah, Evolution as well. She lights up, man. She loves being back out there. And that was my biggest takeaway from this segment, besides a lot of negative things I could say about Charlotte. My biggest takeaway is Lita gets to do something besides the entrance at the Women's Rumble, because that's really all she's had the last couple of years is just that entrance. And look, and as far as Charlotte goes, I'll say it, and whatever backlash comes at me, I really don't fucking care. You have to understand the way you look in clothes and the way your makeup goes on your body. I was so not. I don't look to be turned on. That's not even, but I was literally turned away. I looked at the missus, shouts to the missus. I said, what do you think of this? She goes, oh my God, with just like a look of disgust. And to each their own, however you want to present yourself is on you. But the way she looked was just so off-putting that it wasn't even like, it was like, come on. Like there's elements of trying too hard, and there's elements on both sides, right? Sometimes we can criticize Carmella for trying to look too sexy, but whatever was happening with Charlotte and her outfit and how she looked with the makeup, it was just so wrong in my eyesights in what I was trying, because then she tries to tell you that she's all that and everything, that she's top chick and all that, and it came off so tone deaf's wrong. It just was a complete mix bullshit
Weirdly loud.
of presentation. Yeah, I guess loud's the best way to play it, because I'm trying to skirt the line of being negative and downplaying, but like it was so off-putting. And then the character work, not even in a heel way, was just like you lack perspective of yourself. You lack perspective of your own presentation and the things you're saying.
Well, and just contrast, Becky Lynch came out, looked badass on Raw, even though she didn't win the match, right? Dewdrop kicked everybody's ass, but like,
She's dope.
She desperately wants to be respected like Becky, but without giving the respect. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the problem. That's the problem we're seeing with Charlotte, is that it is 100%. It's all about her. Everybody knows it's about her. It's so hard to disguise. You just can't. Yeah. So I think, like I said, more Naomi, less Charlotte. I don't want to spend any more time talking about Charlotte.
Yeah. And then ultimately, I think what you're trying to say is it was all very unflattering when somebody is in tremendous shape. There's a lot of things you can do that are flattering. It's strange when you pick something that's not flattering, knowing full well that the ability to be flattering is out there. But the twist of faith that Lita gave Charlotte. Charlotte hits the ground and then holds her nose like she was, like she got a rock in the nose, and then immediately rolls over, gets up. Like she just took Lita's finisher and couldn't sell it like she'd gotten anything but flicked in the nose, and it was real fucking weird.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I forgot all about that.
And in my mind, fast forwarding to Raw again, if Rhea Ripley can sell for Nikki Cross the way that she does, then Charlotte can fucking sell for Lita's finish. You know what I mean?
She doesn't give herself to her opponents.
You'd think that would be the fucking case, right?
You'd think.
Yeah,
it'd be too easy.
She doesn't give herself to her opponents. It shows, and it sucks.
It's literally like, even the Undertaker, when he did the sit-up, would pause. Yeah. Like, give me a break. Like, there's nothing. I'm an immovable object. She reminds me of the character The Blob from Marvel. Nothing can stop the Blob. He's just a big fat.
The X-Men.
You know, like, it's like, come on already with it. Just like, we gotta go. Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah. We got to move on from her. It just needs to happen.
And Just Time said she literally put her hands down to stop all the momentum and impact. Yeah, and then she just held her nose. She literally went like this, like she got kicked in the nose.
She did one of these,
like fucking Jan Brady selling a football.
Jan Brady could have won an Academy Award compared to Charlotte's in-ring Cell Jones.
She did the double hands,
like Oscars.
Fucking double hands, like she was taking the ring steps or the fucking announce table.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I just wanted to.
Meanwhile, remember when Beth Phoenix took the cutter from fucking RKO?
Oh yeah, she died.
Beth Phoenix fucking laid out like a savage. She hadn't taken a bump in fucking 15 years, and she lays out the greatest RKO of all time.
She is awesome, by the way. I am loving getting a chance to see her and her husband, because whatever happens with Edge or however long he goes, I really appreciate, as a fan, we're getting a little bit of this swan song.
Yes.
I like it. And honestly, he's a big enough star. He could be involved in all this title stuff. And I would be like, yeah, okay. Like, I'm for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of getting to see it. It's really cool.
And
And it
even
does kind of give you that piece of the Attitude Era because it's kind of the last thing that's left. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Wait, no, you're good. And because it also makes me think of like the Nikki Rhea stuff. Nikki's going out of her way to use her entire body weight in everything she's doing towards Rhea, and Rhea's selling it like every one of them like a sucker punch. Like, fuck, you caught me.
And in reality, we all know Nikki could not do a damn thing to Rhea.
Unless she hit her with her entire body weight every time.
No, it's cool. I am a fan of that storyline. I was a little bit
the turn.
Yeah, I was a little apprehensive about it, but I was like, oh, okay, it's time.
I've had this to your point, Beard. When you say in the let's say the real world context, does Nikki have a chance beating up Rhea, right? Well, take some of your favorites like Shayna Baszler, Ken Shamrock back in the day, even Ronda Rousey. They're only allowed to do so much inside the ring because there's rules. So you have to fight within those confines. You can't go out there and break somebody's arm. You'll be disqualified.
No, I know.
You can put somebody in.
I'm just saying, like, this falls back to the topic we were talking about earlier. If a wrestler is big and strong as Rhea can sell for Nikki, why can't other unnamed wrestlers that we won't mention? I'm going to just start referring to that which should be not named on the podcast because we jump down this rabbit hole. And again, I don't want to be overly critical. Like, I didn't have a problem with her outfit, like, but you are right. Like, there's this level of you're trying too hard and you're trying in the wrong areas. You need to be trying for your opponents. And that's why you said the Naomi match, I actually didn't want to be, critical of that. Micah Pellegrini in the chat says, could Naomi's Kofi moment and the Rumble be Sonya related?
Probably not. I don't know.
What?
He also says, hate to correct Bishop, but Beth was in a match in 2019, WrestleMania 35, almost a year before taking that cutter.
Yeah, she was one person of 9 in a match.
It out there. Yeah. You want to be technical, that's fine. That's what Micah does. He's toxic.
Yeah, he's toxic as fuck.
Sorry. So he's referencing where she lost another match or
and
something.
she was in a Rumble where she split her fucking head open too. My point was that she doesn't take, the daily bumps of even what someone like a Charlotte would. Well, she's out of practice for doing stuff like that, and she sold a move for someone on active TV for the point of telling a story. Where Charlotte can't do that. Is that better, Micah? Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, because also the idea being that Beth had every reason to undersell anything because she's coming back as this dominant person and still sold the shit out of stuff.
Or
I don't understand the Kofi
out of
comment,
practice. Because the two of them do the jump around all over the place without touching stuff, and then Sonya like knock her off the barricade and her feet actually hit the floor or some shit like that. Oh, that's what I would assume. Yeah, because Naomi gets the Kofi spot anyway, where the handstands and the. Well, I'm on the ring steps. I'm not on the floor.
She was right in front of us when she was doing the walking across the fucking ledge on 2019. You can see me turning around to take a selfie with Naomi on the thing.
Did she take one with you?
She was balancing, man. She wasn't looking at me.
Oh, okay.
Did you get her feet?
If you watch the thing, you can see I stand up and go like this. And turn around and try and get the fucking photo with. I have one of me like smiling while she's like right behind me, like, ugh.
That's where that dude got that gimmick, the photo.
Austin Theory? Yeah, Austin Theory had been watching me for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Got it.
I mean,
since episode 1.
Are you taking credit for bringing selfies to the wrestling world? Is that what?
That's probably
what
me.
We just decided that you should start suing every wrestler that takes a selfie because you came up with the concept.
Oh, if I'm MLW, I would for sure. Let me just run through a couple things on SmackDown. The In Zayn thing, Sami Zayn and the fucking
I was hooked
Jackass segment.
I was the whole time.
That I I kept thinking this was going to feel like it was going on too long, and I just couldn't get enough, no matter how much they gave me.
Same. I was like, this is still, wait, he's going to do it? No, it's,
Yeah.
all right, is this done yet? Wait, no. Like, he
Yeah.
kept hooking me. It was great.
I fucking loved it. Pat McAfee on commentary getting mad at him and frustrating. He goes, if this was Jackass, Johnny Knoxville would have almost killed himself 4 times by now.
Yeah.
Dude, the jump thing, yeah, it was funny. Like, I literally thought he was going to go at one point. I was like, oh, this is not going to end well. I was hoping he would have jumped. I was a little bit disappointed, but it actually made it better that he didn't do it. And then, he's not realistically, he would have probably got fucked up for that shit.
And then he gets beat up anyways by the heroes, so it works.
Yeah.
Which the hero got a haircut, huh?
Yeah. A yoked Freddie Mercury, Pat McAfee said.
Yeah, he did. And were you guys a little bummed out? I was a little bummed out he let the locks go.
I wasn't upset he let the locks go. I was upset he kept the mustache.
I think if you cut your hair short, you probably got to go with the mustache too. Get that out.
Or change other things. It was the same exact guy except short hair, and there was same singlet, same boots, same facial hair, no bandana. So maybe if he had the bandana, it would have looked close, but it just looked off because it was this same guy with short hair.
But also, no one's ever in the history of time looked cool with a mustache. Everyone looks like a douchebag with a mustache.
True.
Tom Selleck maybe only.
Somewhere my wife is agreeing with you. She hates. It's like, I can have the beard, but if this goes, there's no mustache.
No, 100%. Everyone I know who's been like, dude, I'm growing a mustache. I was like, why do you want people to know you're a douchebag? At least give people the time to figure it out. It's just a fucking douchebag flag.
True.
I mean, that was the whole joke on Reno 911. Reno 911 had a fucking cast of people with it because they were supposed to be douchebags. How do we get that point across immediately? Mustache. Done.
The best scene is when they all think they won the lottery. That's one of the best scenes. And that one and the fucking drunk guy that does the alphabet backwards like that. Yeah. I've never seen anybody actually do that.
It's so good.
That's a great show. They were doing a hosting thing on Comedy Central for like the holidays. I can't remember, but yeah, funny stuff. You wanted to ask, you was talking about Sami Zayn. I agree. I thought that stuff was funny. And then you said you had a couple other things from Smackdown.
Yeah, real quick. Oh, because this was during the Lita segment. I made a note of it. I really liked hearing Pat McAfee go professional in a way. Like, right? So hear me out, because it's not that he's unprofessional, but he's always having a really good time and clearly being a fan in the moment. And when Michael Cole was away from the table, he had to do some of the housekeeping, as they call it. Like, he had to say, sponsored by Progressive. And you could hear his tone of voice change, which I thought was so cool, because it showed not only can he be just the cool party guy who's fun to be around all the time, and can he also flip the switch and be all like, I'm going to try and make this sound right and professional. He can. And it was just one little signal of not only is he loving what he's doing, but he's trying really hard to do the right things in what he's doing too. And I loved it. I just thought it was great.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever going to be a lack of effort when it comes to Pat. So I
agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but you could
you're right,
audibly hear it. And that's what I liked.
I mean, we even do it on podcasts. When we're in a different space, we act accordingly. I don't host this show, but when I do my own, I talk for an hour straight. I let Beard do that on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have that much insightful shit to say. I just
just go.
But no, with the fact that it is cool though that Pat can flip that switch, because he knows his role. I mean, he shows up on SmackDown to be Pat McAfee. And when he has to not be Pat McAfee because he has to be the host of SmackDown, it's a different skill set. It just is. And
he can do it just fine. And that's what I mean. It wasn't ever going to be a lack of effort, but people could make the argument that McAfee just shows up, does whatever he wants to do, and they let him do it because he's good at just being himself. But here was a moment where you could hear, "Hey Pat, we need you to pitch the sponsors." Sure thing, boss. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, I mean he's got, like, for me, like I didn't even think of any of this. Like I remember the spot and everything, but I was like, because you don't sign $130 million deal with FanDuel and not have a level of professionalism. I mean, he's been on shows. Like he was on College Game Day. He was on ESPN in the morning or whatever. So like he's done a lot of TV. So like, and he's kind of built for it. And then the thing I'll say is, other than like Jerry the King Lawler screaming puppies, you don't really get that like classic wrestling thing from him too. He likes what he likes. So, I mean, I think sometimes he has to walk a fine line because he likes Lesnar and he likes Roman too. But like, so it's a little hard for him there. But like where we know where people stand on the Raw commentary and who's kind of selling what. I like that's the beauty of Pat and his thing where he does what he does and it's authentic. So that's why it's liked.
Yeah. No, I loved it because I think even with all those things, the concept of does he treat the wrestling atmosphere the same way as everything else? And absolutely he does. His whole heart is in it and you could hear it and I loved it. I
got to speak to him on Twitter Spaces, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Woo-hoo! Yeah, fucking cool. I clicked on his thing and put request, and as soon as I did, he was like, "What up, Beard?" And I was like, "No fucking way!" I just like kissed his ass. I didn't have it, because I listen to his show every day. I mean, today I missed it, but like
fucking liar.
First time in like 7 months, I haven't watched like all 3 hours of McAfee show, so. Yeah, man, like it was really cool he asked me a bunch of questions about Alaska. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, it's usually what it comes down to when you're like, oh, you're from Alaska? What time does it go dark? And I was like, 4:30. He's like, same as here.
Yeah.
Like,
bullshit.
He's in Indianapolis, right? So I was like, yeah, it's not that big a difference, I think winter is cold and dark for everybody, so.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
that's cool though, man. That's dope.
Awesome.
I like that he did that because I had a feeling he knew who you were just the way he tweeted at you when we did the picture for the FanDuel thing.
Yeah, that was cool too. Yeah, he messaged me back the night we were out on the town in Phoenix. Yeah, for sure.
And I had a question about Pat McAfee as we talk about Natty and Aaliyah, which I really like their spot. I think they're both doing great. It was fun to give them that kind of time. And I liked hearing the crowd when they're like, and this just in, and Leah hit the thing. The way the crowd went from cheering to like cheering, like you could hear them going, yay, because Aaliyah won. And they go, she just broke a record. They went, wow! Like, so funny.
That was cool. That was a cool one. I actually.
Marsh. Sorry, Beer.
No, that was good. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah. Marsh, you're a huge Natty guy.
Yeah.
And I know how much you respect the Mama Bear work that she does.
Oh, yeah.
How great is this particular character, though?
Amazing.
It seems totally different, right?
Yeah.
Like she's grabbing into something a little bit different because it's not even the boat stuff where this actually feels more like what the boat should have been.
Yes.
But it seems more legit.
Yeah. What she's doing is so fucking cool right now. And the idea that she was, here's your 2 world records and she was able to be like, hey, this is crazy. It's a cool honor. And one of her first thoughts is, how do we get one of the other women in this book? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, how can I get more? It was, I can't believe I have a couple. How can we get someone else one? What are the other records in here? And she's reading the thing, looking for other records and thinking, I bet we could beat that one.
But that's the best part about the one that they just did. Technically, that's her record too. Because she was in the match.
Yeah.
So she can easily say, no, that's mine. I took the pin. If I don't take the pin, you don't have the record. That's my record.
My guess is next week she's going to talk about how she has the newest record for the fastest loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one's lost faster than me ever.
And I didn't want to say it out loud because that's the part of fantasy booking where I'm like, if I say that out loud and it doesn't happen, I'm going to be so disappointed in storyline because it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there to take it.
Oh,
it's not, no, you don't have the fastest win. I have the fastest loss of all time. That's another record for me.
Yeah.
Like
that's for me.
Yeah. That's, I love it.
What's going on, producer? You trying to stare at me?
Well, I think it's cool that they can put that on a marquee now about Aaliyah, because what accomplishments does she have?
Yeah, just
Finally.
yeah.
Oh, like
they
the
immediately
side
put
when
you on
she
the map.
comes up.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
little side thing they can put world record holder, fastest win.
Yeah.
And then she can come out and then Natty next to it, world record holder, fastest loss.
Yeah. I think it would
And then
be
she
cool.
can tweet about it and said, "Who did this?" You're gonna hear from my assistant. I love it. But what I wanted to ask Beard about specifically is on this whole storyline, McAfee mentioned he'd held a world record and only held it for 10 minutes before some kid on the computer at home beat his record. Do you know what that record is?
I don't know what that record is.
Okay, I was curious because it sounded like it was a video game thing he did, and 10 minutes later a kid did it faster, and he was like, well,
Oh,
fuck.
I thought it was a punt or something in the NFL. I missed that reference that he held a record. Yeah, I'll have to research that one for you. Get back to you.
Yeah, that'd be cool to know. And then finally, as far as SmackDown goes, Seth and Roman, we talked about a little bit earlier. I just want to throw out there, during this promo, I thought was so fucking cool, and I was getting some serious Batman Joker vibes. A whole lot of Batman being cool and cocky, and the Joker laughing and playing into his games and messing with him. Like, it felt like big-time hero-villain stuff.
Hey, backtrack real quick.
Go ahead.
It could be that Oculus boxing thing he does a lot. That
Oh.
he could have had a record on there, and then some 12-year-old broke his record. That makes sense. That's probably what it is. I think maybe that's what it is. I'll look it up, but I'm probably that's what he's referencing. So, but anyway, you were saying about this.
But yeah, Roman, Seth, Joker, Batman. What do you think?
I'm good with it.
I love it.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job, and that's the power of Roman's character, that what he's done, albeit it can seem dry, it can seem overdone, he can just stand there and be a presence, be a force, something that when you listen to a guy, especially like Rollins, who's on a completely other level than he's been in the past.
Yeah.
When you get the ability, like, he has the weight, right? Like, it used to be Brock Lesnar that would stand there with the weight, and Paul Heyman would have to talk all about Brock Lesnar and the weight, and somebody would try to say something back. This is just Roman standing there and Rollins trying to sell you, and then Roman will give a little bit here. Like, even with the whole fist thing, like you're saying, the Joker thing, he's dancing around with the fist for the shield, and Roman's like, come on. Like, like that's a great point. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they specifically said that. Go do some Jokerish stuff where you're dancing around being all silly, and Roman just stand there like Batman, waiting for him to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Rollins didn't get roughed up by the Usos or anything either, so it was
Brilliantly.
Yeah, even in the way
evading
the
them.
Joker doesn't necessarily always get caught. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was his music that was playing ultimately when he left, right? So, like,
Yeah,
That's a great point.
He stood tall. And that's just it, too. Is I love the way he was weaseling around them and quicker than him, even enough to where he had time to stare Roman in the face again before ducking out one more time. Because the thing that Seth has, especially Joker Seth, he knows what it's like to be on top. He knows what it's like to have the target on your back, and he knows what it's like to have contenders coming from all sides. He's not like all of Roman's other competitors who are just happy to be there. He's like a different level. I thought it was a great way to portray that.
he could win the title, and no one would say boo, honestly. I think that's when I was like, okay, you know what? We're not getting the Brock Roman story that we thought we were getting, but I actually want this Seth Rollins one more.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, guys, I just felt that way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, here's a quick little fantasy book, right? Let's say they open the show and Rollins fucking weasels his way out of the title, and then the rest of the pay-per-view is Roman throwing a fucking fit, getting into the men's rumble and eliminating 29 fucking people because he wants his fucking title back. Like, they'll never do it, because
that would be cool though.
It would be, right?
That would be cool. They'll never do it, but it'll be
they
cool
won't.
if they did it.
Yeah, it's way too much shit for the whole roster. But, like, then how many people would come out in the ring and do, like, the whole Oh, you know what? Fuck, I'm just gonna step over the top rope and get out of here. The Drew Carey spot, right? Where it's like, no, fuck this, I'm out.
That
You
would
know,
be so fucking funny to have a couple people like who could do it that would be really good at it. That wouldn't
Sami
be crazy.
Zayn.
You could do a Sammy.
Oh,
Sammy
my
could just
neck,
be like,
my
you know
neck,
what?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will go ahead and eliminate myself.
That would
Our
probably be
truth.
the best.
Our truth. You got this, dog. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need my help? You don't need my help? All right, I'm just gonna get out of here. You know, one of those things.
Yeah. He's like puts his leg up. Just give me a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
I did just turn 50.
50. Yeah. You know what? I'm too old for this. I'm just gonna get out of here.
I'm gonna do the Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon. I am too old for this shit.
Yeah. You could totally get away with that. That'd be fucking good. Because I was thinking you could simply do it with like a Ricochet or a Drew Gulak, but I don't think it would have the impact as an R-Truth or a Sammy. I think they both could
Yeah.
deliver it on a
Yeah,
higher
you need
level.
you need comedy in it. Yeah, you need comedy in it.
Yeah. Although Ricochet is underrated in his comedy, I still think about when he did the Eddie Guerrero spot through the chair,
and
and then as soon as puts his hand on his head.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome.
Amazing, amazing. Well, let's talk Raw. We don't need to go through every single segment. Seth Rollins here again with Bobby Lashley. They had the main event. I loved a lot of it. I know guys like Justin Time. I feel like Justin Time spends too much time with you because he's got consistent terrible wrestling takes, which you can check out at In Time Wrestling Podcast. But it opened up with Becky Lynch cutting a badass promo the way badasses do it. The way she was dropping hints that Doudrop didn't own her own name makes me think we could be starting to dip our foot in the waters of getting a storyline that ends with a Piper Niven instead of a Doudrop.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank God, because that Doudrop name sucks.
The way she called her doo-doo, I was like, oof.
Yeah.
They're putting the finishing touches on this one, I think. I loved that Bianca and Liv came out and cut their promos the way they did. They both sounded really good. I love Doudrop. Doudrop was high level there. She sounded
She's
so
hilarious.
natural.
She's incredible. She's
Wait,
incredible.
Beard, you haven't seen her cut promos much. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think I've seen a lot of her promo. They've been giving her a lot of airtime.
That's true.
Oh, she's good. I like her. I think she could be the champion convincingly. Becky could lose the title.
Good point.
But you could still be like doing the Becky sell, but I think she could lose the title because I don't know, man. Like she's like so physically intimidating. It's sort of like that. I don't want to say the China factor, but remember, like China couldn't wrestle the women, basically, right? I'm not saying the Doudrop can't, but like you feel like there's about two of them that could go like long time with her, and everybody else, it's gonna be you're gonna need a gimmick or something to help that. And I mean, in like reality. So I'll be interested to see what they do. Like I said, if she wins the title, I don't think too many people would cry either because it's like, oh, there's really nobody can like do anything like to her in the ring. So
I think your best point was she can win the title, not just that, but hold the title convincingly.
Yeah.
She hasn't really been given the room to show off. She's definitely had so much opportunity on TV. And to the point of Liv where it was like, okay, every promo she sounds better. Every match she sounds better. Doudrop, to steal a phrase from NXT, she don't miss. She every time she's on the mic, you hear what she's saying through the accent, which is very hard for a lot of non-American wrestlers. Through the accent, you get her point, and through the ring, you see her capabilities, not just her size and strength, her actual wrestling ability. Again, we talked about, her selling for Bianca in that match, the way she sold, the way she gets herself in position. She doesn't miss in ring or on the mic. And I do wish she would change up her gear a bit. When she started wearing the leather jacket after Eva Marie, she had more of a little flair to her, a little bit more impact on what's her volume, right? Is she super intense Rhea Ripley? Is she super, poppy Nikki ASH? Where is she? What's her level? What am I looking at? Am I looking at a complete badass, or am I looking at just a awesome technician? I think that's the only miss we have. But as soon as she gets the title, yeah, you're right. I don't think anybody is complaining because she proved she's worth it.
Dude, and two things happen in this one. One, Becky Lynch cuts down Doudrop in the promo enough to say, I don't think much of you, but said enough things where you go, she might be nervous about her. And then secondly, I don't think much of you. However, She goes over and shoves Liv and Bianca and immediately runs behind Doudrop and starts ducking back and forth. Like, what are you going to do? I got Doudrop in between us, you know, and I let Doudrop take the brunt, right? So it's like incredible to say, oh, yeah, I'll beat you because you're nobody, but then also saying, I need you to protect me in the same breath. You know what I mean?
But then, too, like, Doudrop messed up Becky, too. So, like,
Yep.
she's like, I'm not going to take your crap. Even though you're on my team, I'm going to beat your ass.
And Liv sold in such a good way, and so did Becky, that when Doudrop messed up and didn't tag herself in and had to redo it,
that was funny.
It didn't look like a stretch. It looked like she fucking killed 2 people. The ref said, you're not even in. And she goes, okay, I'll fix that too. I've got time because they're destroyed. Goes and does it, hits another move again, and you hear Liv.
That's the key. That's where when I have to defend WWE over AEW and other matches that people want to call greatness, when there's a botch or a mistake in the match, there's fluidity in fixing the mistake. And that's what we saw there. Doudrop did it. She jumped in. She was ready to do the pin. And you can say, oh, maybe the moment's too big for her. But if it was too big, she would have looked flustered going back to get tagged in. She would have not been able to realize I need to hit the rope and land another move to make sure that Liv still looks credible. She maintained integrity throughout that performance. And that when I saw that happen, I was like, son of a bitch. Because I got caught up a little bit too. Like, you're not tagged in. And then she tags, but as soon as she ran to that rope, I said, fucking right. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
those are those moments, man.
And she didn't try to bury the ref in that either. Because some of those people get flustered and they get mad at the ref.
I thought it was part of the storyline that she had to tag herself back in.
Who knows?
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible, but that's the only time she didn't look like she knew what she was doing. So that's why I think it may have just been an honest mistake. But because she pulled Becky the whole way, and to not tag her did seem odd. And also, Becky didn't give up her arm and do like the whole, hey, tag me. She let it play out. So it's possible it's story. It's possible it isn't. And either way, story or not, that ending was executed flawlessly.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was part of the story.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Is it could 100%. Like, the fact that watching it, I could absolutely make the argument that it was story or wasn't, makes it perfect. That's good wrestling. When you can't discernibly tell the difference and you can make the argument for both. And that's when it becomes just that high level of execution. Whether they intended to do it that way, it was perfect. Whether they didn't intend to do it that way and they had to cover their ass, still perfect. And that's the art level of things. And so, yeah, I loved that whole encompassing story there. Producer, something she wants to yell at me?
Really cool that they all worked together so well. And no one was trying to outshine anyone else. It was all about, let's all kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an awesome match. I was going to say, like, felt good. Like, they're really doing a good job with the women. We've been kind of complaining that they haven't been getting enough time. And that felt like, oh, we are listening to you and we're giving you the best of what you can see in women's wrestling, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, I think that's, again, a testament to the Becky factor of everyone being able to look good at the same time. And it's been my biggest critique of Natty. Natty gets put in those situations where she has to coordinate the match to make sure everyone else looks good, and she herself ends up sacrificing in those moments. That hasn't happened with what she's doing now, but and I know this is they don't wrestle the same. You can tell Becky and Natty don't wrestle the same. But what's been built through all 4 of these ladies during the entire time they've been touching, whether it has been together or separately, it showed in this match. The work that they put in has paid off.
Yeah, you see the cohesiveness in Raw and the women's on Raw versus what we have now on SmackDown, and it's just not comparable, really. It does show like the leadership that Becky Lynch brings to the back of the house there, I think. Because it has to be. Because look at how effective it was. It was good. And I think it's great. We were talking, I wanted to see more women's wrestling stuff. We got nothing in day one. That was like unacceptable. Really, quite honestly. We should have like 3 or 4 women's matches. So
But yeah, I was all for it. I liked it a lot, and hope that we get a lot more of that. And it keeps Bianca in the game. It keeps Liv in the game. Now throw in Piper Niven, Doudrop, whatever. Can Becky, like, if Becky loses the title to Doudrop, I feel like Becky can still do Becky's things, and
Yeah.
it just makes that whole storyline. Those four are all still in the mix. It's good. I'm good with it. I like it.
Yeah. I feel like the difference is Becky doesn't hold the title as a self-edification the way that other champions do. She holds the title as a flag for the division, and as she uses that title as a rope to pull the others up, and not as a flag to hold herself up. You know what I mean?
Well, it's showing on the on-screen too. Like, it's showing with a cohesiveness when you have a match that looks like people actually want to wrestle each other.
Yeah. Some use it as an anchor to bring the others down. She uses it as a rope to pull others up.
That which will not be named.
Yeah. Let's see. I loved all the Kevin Owens stuff. All that stuff backstage, I thought they did a really good job with Edge and
Kevin Owens.
Beth.
I can't wrestle. I have a tie on.
Yeah, I have a tie on. I love when he came out and he adjusted his tie.
Dude, that segment was hilarious. And Rollins and him are gold too. That's why I'm like, what the hell?
He gets it. He really gets it. It's been his dream to be a professional wrestler. And we see a lot of guys out there who wrestle and they act as, I know this is a Sam Roberts thing. People go out there and play professional wrestler. He doesn't. Kevin Owens can do his thing across any era. He'd have been good in the 80s as most likely a manager guy who takes bumps. Honestly, he could have been a Bobby Heenan type, but nowadays his size is allowed to wrestle. And what he does as a wrestler is fucking amazing, but he also understands his character. He gets to be the asshole, and he thrives in that moment. And to your point, Beard, him and Seth Rollins.
I was wondering, because I liked him as a babyface, so I was like, oh man, he was a pretty good babyface, so we'll see how this goes. But he's pretty good heel, so like it feels like he's enjoying it too. I think I don't know if I have heard this or read this or whatever, but it seems like a lot of them, they like playing the heel, like it's the more fun of the two things.
Well, Austin always said that it's, as a babyface, you can walk down the ramp. If you trip, you get laughed at. If you're the heel, you trip, and you can just tell the crowd to go fuck themselves because I'm the heel. Like, there's less pressure on you. And you can kind of free flow it without having, the worries of, but that's why Austin's character was so transcendent, is that anything he did was so beloved because it felt so natural. But Kevin Owens, I do think is in that lane. I think because, like you said, he was awesome as a babyface, and as a heel, you're enjoying his work.
Yeah.
But do you want to see him win, or do you kind of want to see him get his ass kicked because he's always talking shit?
I don't know. I kind of like I'm okay with him winning. I think because too, like, my psychology of the wrestling is changing.
Yeah.
I said it's always been priority for me to be like the story. And now I care a little bit more about the in-ring wrestling, obviously. But the story is still, to me, paramount. So it's like, well, if he's the champion, does it make for a good story? And I'm like, I think it does. So I would be okay with him being the champion for a while. And I know he's been it before. And I mean, also, guys, I was wondering, like, do you feel like the really one unfortunate in this whole thing, how everything's shaping out with the titles, is that Big E is kind of maybe off to the wayside for a bit? That feels a little bit of a letdown.
I feel like I feel like good wrestling storyline stuff, and I mean, maybe it's not even good, maybe it's just what I'm used to, is a series of spinning plates and a lot of back burners. Yeah. You got to get someone real hot to push them to the back and get someone else real hot. But that doesn't mean that when they're on the back burner, they can't be moved forward real quick. And that's the idea. They had a bunch of people who were cold. They had to build to get to a point where they could believably be in those contentions. So when you have a Royal Rumble, like watch Royal Rumble 2000 and tell me for 1 second you didn't think The Rock was going to win, and then he wins. because they only had a bunch of jobbers in the match. He beat nobody in the Rumble.
Yeah.
To have the Rumbles like when Austin won, where Stone Cold's in the corner because he's throwing motherfuckers out left and right, and all of a sudden you hear that guitar, it's Bret Hart coming out, and then he goes, "Oh my God!" To have these moments of, is this, you know what I mean? Like, you need to have a bunch of people who could believably be in contention at any given time.
Well, and to have Bret Hart like ever go back to, you know, I mean, he spit in a man's face. He was pretty pissed, you know.
Oh yeah.
No, I think Big E has been, like I said this about Jinder, and Jinder's title reign was very lackluster, but in my opinion, what it did is the next time they need a challenger and they put the one-time champion Jinder Mahal across from the champion, his credibility exists within being champion. He's now a made man, and the opportunity of him winning again is solely based off the fact that he won before. So Big E's now in that status. But when you look at his performance at day one, where he was basically, I mean, he looked so credible. He was about to give the big ending to Brock. It was close. And the effort that the effort production put on that moment, I was like, damn, this looks so official. And I am of the opinion that Big E wins the Rumble and faces Lashley, because Lashley's going to find a way to beat Brock Lesnar. If it doesn't happen, that's fine, because fantasy booking is for losers. But the idea that Big E is going to go away, it's possible that he's no longer in the main event storyline, but it's also possible that he's now a made man. So the second he touches somebody, the threat is already there. And that just means he's important.
Yeah, 100% of the time, Jinder's in a match, they go, well, you can't discount him. He won the WWE Championship off of Randy Orton and held it for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it's brought up every time he wrestles too. So, like, I agree with that sentiment.
It does make it a bummer that Big E's not there right now. That he's on a
back burner. Not in the mix for it. Yeah,
but that also means I'm always ready for him to be put forward again.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm loving this Honest Owens stuff. I hope he really leans into it. I posted a picture of a Photoshop I did of making him look like Abraham Lincoln and said Honest Owens.
Dude, they could do. He did the Kevin freaking Owens. And by the way, I wanted to ask you guys, when did Seth add Seth freaking Rollins? When did he add that?
He's done it a couple times, man.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things with him where every now and then he just goes back to it.
Well, it's in his name now that comes.
Well, that's the thing. So a couple years ago, it was part of his character. He would say it. I'm Seth freaking Rollins, and it was part of him announcing himself, and it was on T-shirts before. It to him. Yeah.
Triple H is like, you're Seth freaking Rollins. You know, like he was trying to pump him up when he was the undisputed
he even had
future
shirts.
Or whatever.
Didn't he have shirts that said SFR on them?
Yeah.
For Seth freaking Rollins. So this is years ago, and now that WWE does a trademark, and
the mug even it's the
SF and Rollins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth fucking Rollins, like it's there.
So it's been a thing, but the fact that and this is what I fucking hate about, and you guys are going to talk about this tomorrow night. Anytime WWE puts out a trademark, these fucking I don't even know what to call them. Internet sleuths, whatever the fuck they are. They go through and they're like, oh, there's a trademark for this, so this is going to happen, back to the wanting to be spoiled thing.
Yeah.
Piper never even got trademarked by WWE. Seth freaking Rollins got trademarked by WWE. So now it's like, oh, well, guess what? They're going to change his name. And they did. Okay, now what? Who fucking cares? Stop looking at it. Stop
Are you mad because they sleuth it out and ruin it for you? Is that how you
No, it's not a ruin it. They put weight in it. They put weight in it as in, oh, I knew before they showed us on TV, therefore this is something important. It's actually not important at all. It's just something they're going to do. And here's the thing. They mostly complain about it when it happens anyway, but they do it to sell T-shirts, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I'm not the business person. I watch the TV. A little bit is like the fact that Piper Niven's trademarked. It's like, okay, so the name change is going to happen. I thought it was going to happen anyway. Now it's definitely going to happen. And when it does, those same people can be like, look, I told you they trademarked it 3 months ago. We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
that's where I heard it from somebody that that read the trademark or whatever. But so do you think though she wins the title, they do Piper Niven, like rebrand?
Well, I think Marsh said it earlier that the space for her to have the story and the name change is here. Because Marsh and I did a whole episode on Doudrop and Eva Marie on the Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast, TerribleTakesPodcast.com for all platforms. We did a whole episode on what that story arc felt like and where we may have thought it was going to end up. And it literally went with the berating of Doudrop coming out with the opportunity with fan support to call me Piper. You know, in a Britney way, I'm Piper, bitch. Like, have that thing happen. And that's when we thought the name change went, because the story arc was going there. The story didn't get there. It is what it is. But this lane, the way she's performing on TV, the opportunity to change the name in storyline, it also gives her the opportunity to go from heel to face just by changing her name in front of Becky Lynch. Yeah. And however that plans out, hopefully it does. But I think that's title or not. But to Marsh's point, when she dropped the berating of you don't know your own name, that's potentially where the story's going.
Yeah, and I think my problem with a lot of those sleuths types is that they're the type to where now if she turns into Piper Nivens, they go, predictable. Was it predictable, or did you see a fucking trademark on a public, like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Did it work storyline? If it works storyline, I don't care. To be honest, like we're going to talk about tomorrow, there was a name change in NXT. Does it work storyline? And it does, which makes it a lot less fucking shocking when you go, oh,
right.
These people go by different names at different times. And when you say like, hey, there's a trademark for this, therefore that. No. I'm watching a story play out. If the storyline works, if they don't say anything and all of a sudden she's just out and you're supposed to accept it, that's one thing. But when a character says, I've been going by this and now I'm going by this for whatever reason I have, it works. You know what I mean? It plays through.
That it happened with Doudrop too. WWE trademarked Doudrop, and then because Piper Niven was on TV for a couple weeks before Eva Marie allowed her to speak. And even before she was allowed to speak, the commentator went to address Piper Niven, and Eva Marie's like, your name, we'll call you Doudrop. But Doudrop had been trademarked like 2 weeks before, and it was all over the internet or all over Twitter. It's like, oh, who are they going to call Doudrop? It better not be Piper Niven. And they're going against the story without allowing the story to happen. And then it happened.
There were people outraged before it even happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which made Eva Marie the biggest heel in the business, and I stand by it. I stand by that episode.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, the thing they could play with that too is she got released, right? They could really because they got rid of her character, right? I mean, she's gone from WWE, so
it'd be great if she comes back in the Rumble and like hugs Doudrop.
That's what I was gonna say, is that she was released, but she's also never said a negative thing about WWE and has always talked about how WWE is a huge part of her life. It wouldn't be a shock to me if she came back for a month or a shot or goes into Royal Rumble and Doudrop throws her out and she's like, what the fuck was this? You know what I mean? Like, I think all that stuff's on the table, which is great, you know?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that whole storyline. Like I said, it feels that Raw women's division right now is really
They're doing great.
It's enjoyable.
It's really good. Was there anything else on Raw that you guys wanted to definitely hit on? The Chad Gable Alpha Academy stuff was fun.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was cool to see Randy Orton come out and RKO a couple of dudes. Just doesn't feel like wrestling if that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I did get a kick out of Chad Gable saying Otis, who we couldn't find evidence of him ever having a last name, and I was like, fucking fun. No last name that we know of.
Dude, it is so hard for me to listen to Chad Gable and not be like, that is fucking mini me Kurt Angle. He's Kurt Angle. Yeah. He's the most Kurt Angle ever. It's so
obvious too, because again, Marsh, you were watching back with the Jason Jordan storyline, right?
Oh yeah, his son.
Yeah, so Chad Gable's tag team partner was the storyline son of Kurt Angle, and everyone who's watching back then was like, no, but Chad Gable actually looks like him. Yeah, make it believable.
Yeah.
Well, they were teasing it.
They should have used him as the guy.
Yeah, they were teasing that his son was, there was all this stuff and it was this whole weird thing, and then you started getting a hint that it's going to be the Alpha Academies who he's looking at, and one of them supposed to be his son. Everyone went, well, obviously going to be Chad Gable. And then they chose Jason Jordan. Everyone went, well. But yeah, Chad Gable makes me laugh. Me, he's like old school. He's an old school heel type. Like he reminds me of like the old Memphis types of stuff. Those kinds of shit talks.
Good. I like that Alpha Academy. They're funny and they deserve their day in the sun for sure.
Oh, and then when Gable said that he wants to do an academic competition between RK Bro, it zoomed in on Otis, who was kind of like, he's like, oh no.
Words, gotta say words.
It's so funny.
Otis don't know words.
I was thinking about this before when I was waiting for everything to. I was thinking, man, Chad Gable so much like Kurt Angle. I go, except for Chad Gable's gold medal is his 4.0 average. That's like the thing they're using for him to be, which I actually I like it. And he, of course he goes and shits on Tulsa, they're next, like you said, they're next level healing it, like pretty good. Yeah. So I like them. I got nothing against them.
No, love it. I'm only going to say this real fast because I don't think there's a lot to dig in on this show. Maybe tomorrow night on the next episode 1. But with Nikki and Rhea being split up, I really like the way that story's going. But Zelina and Carmella did come up and kind of highlight that we're not really sure who the next team is. I don't know about you, Bishop, but I think that we are on the cusp of having Toxic Attraction show up on the main event, the main roster. I think you could easily, believably have Mandy lose to Kaylee Ray and have the rest of Toxic Attraction lose their titles to whoever wins the Dusty Cup, and then move them on up, and then you can have a new tag team and a new believable championship type contender there.
My only thing with Mandy, as much as I love what she's doing on NXT, she feels best presented in the smaller arena. I don't know how her mic skills play out in a larger arena. Like she was able to shut down the what chants in the CWC. She was able to, command what was going on. And I'm not saying that she's not built for the moment, because we both agree that, NXT seems to kind of unlock some things that she may not have been confident with, be it mic skills or in-ring work, ability to lead a match, things like that. The short answer is I don't feel it yet. I don't feel it yet. It's possible. I just don't feel it yet. I think they're not clean enough.
All right. Beard, what do you think about almost becoming the new 24/7 champion?
He's going to have it for a while.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. Back when they first had the 24/7 championship come out, at the same time, Alistair Black was doing this segment where he was, every week they were showing this tight camera shot on his face, and he was going on these weird monologues, and he would say that he wanted someone to pick a fight with him. Pick a fight with me was his constant thing. And then they unveiled the 24/7 championship. And I said, well, this is it. Instead of making it this goofy thing, have Alistair go out there, fucking black mask kick the face off whoever the champion is, hold the title up and say, pick a fight with me, and let the story be that he has to hold this title 24/7. And you can legitimize that title as well, of saying, like, literally any contender at any time, I love to fight. In this regard, it would be slightly different because it's almost, but you can start building a certain credibility to 24/7 championship if you have almost walk around and just smack the shit out of people who come up to take the title. You know what I mean? Just fucking face palm them to the ground kind of shit.
Yeah. I mean, it gives Omos something to do.
Yeah, I'll give him something to do. Bishop, what do you think?
It's a neat idea. It's a neat idea. It gives it. Yeah, it would give it a different perspective instead of, who's hiding in what bushes and things like that. And it's not going to be about, running around and through matches and shit like that. So, I wouldn't necessarily be mad at it.
All right.
Because honestly, I think Omos is regressing. I think he's not he's not looking the way he's acting. You know, because we watched the slow play, right? I live on air during TLC called him big for no reason, and then they smacked him in the back with a chair. The chair breaks. He fucking chases down. I forgot who hit him with the chair. Like, you know, they did this whole thing, and it felt like we were leading towards this evolution of Omos being able to wrestle. And then when he did his first, you know, running back elbow into the turnbuckles, I was like, holy shit. And then he only did one little thing, you know, every week. And then all of a sudden he does a fucking roundhouse kick. And we're like, holy shit, he can lift his leg high. Like that holy shit factor, it's not there anymore. So, you know,
he's becoming the great Khali.
A lot closer to any other big man, yeah.
Yeah, but
you know what? Let me toss you. He is great. Let me ask you guys this. I was on with the guys with Clark Street Wrestling. Shouts to the guys for having me on last week. We kind of fantasy booked throwing him over to SmackDown and working with bigger guys like Drew and Sheamus. And, you know, to get, my perspective was he was with AJ for so long. AJ can literally teach him basically everything about wrestling except how to be a big guy. Maybe he just needs to work with bigger guys.
That could be true. Yeah.
I would be hesitant to agree with that just because, for one, just because AJ isn't a thing doesn't mean he doesn't understand that thing. In his matches that he could potentially have with Omos, do this, do that, make yourself look bigger, make yourself be bigger, because him as a small guy knows how to make someone even bigger. And how easy is it for, I mean, because AJ made Brock look big. Brock is already big, but he made Brock look bigger. You know what I mean? So if he's like, oh, hey, I got an 8-foot guy here, I can make him look 12 foot. I know how to do this. You know what I mean? Like,
see, AJ knows how to make him look that way. Omos doesn't know how to make himself look that way. And if Sheamus can go, well, but he's not going to face AJ every time.
Is this the $1 billion man and Ted DiBiase with Virgil?
Same person.
Like,
yeah. But I'm saying, but the idea that AJ knows how to means that he could potentially teach him what that is.
What I'm saying is, though, like,
seem that way.
Virgil wasn't. Yeah, I'm just
saying.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Virgil wasn't really successful outside of being with $1 Billion Man, right? Do you fear that
he would disagree? But he's crazy.
Hey, he got me to pay for an autograph. $3.
Did you? How it was $200?
$3.
$3?
I paid $3.
There you go.
That's all I had in my pocket. I was like, dude, you it's funny because it was like 5 years before Lonely Virgil was a thing. And he was the only one at the mall in Delaware. There was nobody around his table. And I saw the poster I had in my room, and he had it in an 8x10. And he was like, whatever the price was. And I was like, dude, I got $3 cash. I'll give you $3. So this is before Venmo. This is before swipe on the card, all that shit. It's like, dude, I got $3. I'll give you. He goes, fine, you can have it. But Beard, you didn't hear me tell this. And Marsh, I think I told you. He told me the Ricky Henderson story, but as if it was him and a WrestleMania check. So he goes, oh, Vince McMahon gave me $1 million WrestleMania check, and I framed that check on my wall. And Vince called me up. He's like, hey, man, I'm balancing the books, and I'm missing $100. Did you deposit that check I gave, or $1 million? Did you deposit that check I gave you? And as he's telling the story, I'm like, man, I heard this story before. And then I heard Ricky Henderson tell it a couple years later. I said, fucking Virgil told me the Ricky Henderson story as if it was him. I knew he never got paid $1 million for anything. You wouldn't need fucking $3 autographs in Delaware.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Virgil's a crazy person. But I hear what you're saying. It's just a fun sidebar because he's so funny to talk about. But yeah, could almost suffer. Yeah. Who could almost suffer from not being with AJ? The answer, I think, is absolutely yes, but I don't think he has to. I think that the problem you have with big guys against big guys is Drew knows how to make himself look big. Will he know how to make Omos look big? And will he be able to teach Omos how to look big? Or will Drew be out for himself? That's not to say a bad thing, but there's a lot of big guys you have to I mean, famously, supposedly, rumoredly, whatever, Andre the Giant didn't like Big John Studd because there was only one room for one giant in the room, right? And so he would do stuff to make John look smaller. He would sit on him and shit. Literally fart on him and stay sitting. Like he would do things. So it's like
somehow while crushing 48 beers before
Yes.
the match.
yeah,
Legend.
Holy shit.
yeah, 100%. But at the same time, so a Sheamus I think would have Drew. I don't know, because we saw Drew
Right.
going through on the job training, and who'd he go through with? His on the job training was with like a Keith Lee and a Randy Orton and HBK
Right.
and stuff, like Dolph Ziggler. Does he know how to make someone else big look even bigger? Because the idea is if you're already 7 foot, you need to be 9 foot when you come out that match.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair.
I think AJ's smart enough and long enough in the tooth that he'd probably be the best one to be like, when you're in a match, you do this. I don't care the size of them. If they're this tall, you do it this much. You know what I mean?
So the thought behind that was that they were together for so long and they've been apart for way less, and it already looks like it's affecting him. So I was wondering if it wasn't necessarily translating to him in that way. I don't disagree. I think AJ's the greatest of all time. I think his just everything he does about wrestling. I mean, fuck, he got me to like Grayson Waller, and I hate Grayson Waller at the same time because I'm supposed to. I mean, that's how good he is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's a possibility he could be almost could be hitting a wall, and at least 24/7 gives him something to do while they figure out that next step.
For
Well,
sure.
if he doesn't, you guys think if he's not successful with this 24/7, that it could be kind of the beginning of the end for him?
I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes either. I think that it could be static either way, but at the end of the day, if he fucking falls on his face with it, we could see a lot less of him for sure.
I just feel like the big man thing in wrestling too has been, it's such a part of the lexicon, but it is, you guys are right. It's so hard to find like the guys that can do it convincingly.
Yeah,
Well, I was just going to agree with what you were saying. I do think there's a space for the big guy. That lexicon, it is there. But what is his space? Is his space Diesel Bodyguard, or is his space Kevin Nash on the mic? That's the same guy in two different.
Hard to
completely
do
different
though.
That's what I mean. And
Yeah.
I think it's a lot closer to the first one than it is, because honestly, when he was the bodyguard for Raw Underground, it was convincing. He's a big guy. Nobody's going to move out the way. That's convincing. The more he does as the wrestler and, the little bit he does on the mic, it's less convincing. So,
And then you end up with the problem of the big guys who don't want to do small or big guy things. Shout out to friend of the show, #1 fan, Sam Stackhouse, still takes Hurricane Rana's like it's nothing. Like we're supposed to believe anybody's legs can take that man over his own head. You know what I mean? Ass over tea kettle. Because a lot of these bigger guys want to prove that they're athletic, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but it does create a weird void for the big guys who just do big guy things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think because of like the athleticism of the modern day wrestlers, like guys like Brock Lesnar, the alpha male of the species.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit different expectation of what we want from our big men, and then the classic big man like Andre the Giant trope still has some relevancy, or does it? I don't know. I mean, it's like interesting. And we have a whole episode about that.
About big man. Yeah, because Keith Lee was an anomaly and a confusion as well, because he was doing like flips and moonsaults, and he would do these big flashy moves and still be a big man, and then people would kick out of it. And you're like, well, if you're telling me Rey Mysterio at 175 does the move and it ends the match, and you do it at 350 pounds and it doesn't, it's visually confusing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
and he also would do powerful offense that they would sell as an acrobat, but he would also sell his opponent like an acrobat. And that's what I was saying earlier about the whole NXT trope that's kind of going around about them burying, NXT guys. There's a way that they want their stories told on Raw and SmackDown. And I don't know this because I don't work there, but that kind of optic is hard to buy. That a guy 375 is going to take a super kick from Seth Rollins and fall down right away. He's a big fucking dude.
Yeah.
You got to put work in,
Yeah.
So, but that's here nor there.
That's actually why one of the things I loved about the Doudrop match in the beginning is it opens up with Bianca doing a drop kick to Doudrop, and she backed up but didn't go down.
Right.
And then you have Bianca struggling to get Doudrop down, and I thought it was fucking great.
And it's not a no sell, it's a work down. It's a breakdown.
Yes. Let's wrap it up though on a little bit of Rey Mysterio. Rumor has it the leak came out. He's going to be on the cover of 2K22 potentially with Becky on the back cover. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal, and I really enjoyed his segment here on Raw, where it was him and his son against the Street Profits. And after the match was over, Rey Mysterio did the classic casual wrestling fan breakdown of throwing everybody out of the ring over the top rope, so that way the commentator can say, if this was the Royal Rumble, he'd be eliminated. So you understand the rules, because otherwise you'll never get the rules.
Oh, and it's every man for themselves.
And it's every man for themselves. Yes. Why'd he throw his son out? Because it's every man for himself, son.
Well, and teams can work together because the Mysterios threw out the Street Profits, but it's still every man for themselves.
Yep.
So the father throws out the son. It was perfect.
Yep. I loved it. And then Dominic on the outside smiling and being like, what the hell? And Ray's like, you gotta think. Oh, here comes the Rumble. I loved it, dude.
And the Street Profits were like, that's the thing. That's what they're supposed to do.
Right? The Street Profits are like, maybe it's every man for ourselves as well. And like Ray's like, yes, that's what I'm telling you. I loved it, man. I loved it. It's just classic old school wrestling, classic. Let's teach them the rules early on. I had a lot of fun with it. And I think just Rey Mysterio might be, if not the nicest guy in all of wrestling, it's only second to Jimmy Hart. But I loved it. Beard, what did you think of the Rey Mysterio thing here?
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I agree with you. I don't have a negative thing to say about it.
Yeah. I think the 2K cover is awesome.
Looks sick.
Yeah, and I mean he's a really popular wrestler, and he deserves his just due. I mean, again, he could be in the championship mix, right? And we would all be like, yeah, of course he is. He should be.
Yeah, they threw together that storyline with Roman last year in fucking 3 weeks, and it all made sense, and we all cared.
Yeah, and he just puts on a good show like every time. It's amazing how old that guy is. Like what he does, like night in and night out in the ring. Pretty impressive. So
yeah,
probably couldn't have picked a better representative for the video game, honestly. Like first guy to actually do shit that you probably wouldn't have seen other than in a video game. So
that's true.
Right? Yeah, 100%. I have no negative concept about him being on the cover, as much as other people want to take negative spins on it.
Do you guys buy the game?
I usually do. I usually buy the pre-order collector's edition.
Okay.
I have 2019, and I think the one Stone Cold was on where you get to go through his career. That was
that's how I got this.
That was one of the first ones. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, they're serialized. This is the 2018.
But I haven't bought in a while.
I like taking this when I go to meet wrestlers, and so I can go like this in the picture, and they think that I'm in the Hall of Fame too, but I'm not. I'm not.
No, they think you're a mark.
Do. You're commonly confused as a wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they went, oh shit, you must be in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, actually, this one of the old championship title I wore when I went and met Hacksaw, and I took in the picture, and he loved it. He was like, oh my god, where'd you get that? And I was like, it's on
Is he in the Hall of Fame? Is he in the Hall of Fame, Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Yeah, I was like, you got a whole better ring, man. And then
is Terry Funk in the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
That's a great question. He's got to be, right?
He should be.
Yeah, but that's all I got. Is there anything else you guys have? You guys let me know.
I think I'm good, man. I tell you, and you know what I really love, and maybe I've curated my timeline. I don't know, but fuck, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw Raw is too long. I can't watch this shit.
Yeah.
It goes by so fast, honestly.
It feels like it, right? Like I think of all the shit that we've given and not because I tend to look on the brighter side because I had less time to do than to be negative unless it's AEW and Charlotte. But I've defended Raw so much, but now I don't have to because nobody's talking shit on it. Like we got to give WWE some props on like how good of a job they're doing telling stories and maintaining our attention. And honestly, not all of it's extremely talkable, but it's all entertaining. They're doing good shit. And that should be applauded. So, I mean,
one can argue they may have gutted SmackDown to make Raw better.
But there's still the tribal chief over there doing some great
whatever.
things. No, I think on a weekly look, if they take McAfee and they move him from SmackDown to Raw, you got a point. But as long as McAfee and Roman are there, I think we're in good shape. But no, I think week by week we're getting really good WWE content. I also put 2.0 in there, but if you don't want to watch NXT and you're just watching Raw and SmackDown, I think you're having a good time. So,
yeah.
I
mean, no, you don't have to watch NXT. Yeah, 100%. Because I think that there's a lot of times, especially when you do episode ones for as many years that we've been doing an episode one, a lot of times we'll curate what you're talking about based off what you like or didn't like, and do we really want to spend time talking about things we don't like? I found this episode to be particularly difficult because as I was going through, I couldn't find a lot of stuff to cut out just because I didn't fucking like it, to be honest. I mean, we didn't talk much about Austin Theory and the Finn Balor and Vince McMahon thing, but it wasn't because I didn't think they're doing a good job of it. I just didn't think there was as much meat on the bone other than did you guys like it or not and move forward than there was with some of this other stuff. And even when we got to Raw in general, I was like, well, what do we... Typically, it's always been like, well, Raw's the longer show, but we talk less about it because we don't talk about the things we don't like. We're at a point now where these shows are getting real 50-50 when we break down the shows in general because it's just so much on both shows that is enjoyable. And Raw's become easy to watch, where for a while it was a struggle. SmackDown definitely have segments that drag now, where it used to have no segments that drag. So I mean, it's become real more even-keeled on both shows. They're both... SmackDown isn't as good as it was before. I'll give you that, Beard. But Raw is much better than it was, and so it's created a new baseline between both of them.
I was just playing devil's advocate.
No, it's fair.
It's fair because there was a long time that we were talking where me and Kev were saying that we just wanted to watch SmackDown, and then sometimes Raw felt like a chore, and it was like we would watch it with a sound.
Yeah. When I first came on, I don't think I heard Kev say a nice thing about Raw at all. He always had something to say about Raw. So, and I get, and I was there with him, like on a lot of that shit. So, like, you could tell though, like the moving of said superstars over to Raw, mainly Rollins and Becky Lynch, has really made like a huge difference.
Kevin Owens, I think, showed up over there, and it's been great.
Yeah, it's
the storytelling with Ian Lashley, and again the pivot at day one, having Brock Lesnar being such a powerful force to get all these characters invested when he's not there. It's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, it might also just be the absence of Drew and Charlotte.
Yeah,
with them no longer taking up all that time. Yeah.
But you still have Charlotte. On that note, let's end the show.
Yeah. Let's do it, guys. Thank you for coming through and having a drinking with us, your drinking buddies. If you go to WrestlingOnTheRocks.com and click on the shop, you can get right over to our Teespring, where we have a whole bunch of new designs, new drinking buddy shirts, mugs. We got pint glasses. We got wine tumblers. Every single item you see on there, just so you know, to be honest and upfront, we're making significantly less than we were making on anything on the PWTs, but we went there to bring the prices down. You can now get a t-shirt for $13.50 at any given moment, instead of waiting for some 25 or 20% off token to come through that cut into what we made anyways. We're making $2 an item or less. Almost always less. Where before we were making $7, unless it was a sale, then it was $5. So I've cut our profits in half at least, which has been fantastic for us, but even better for you. So pick up your shirts, pick up your mugs. If you want a shower curtain, let me know. I've been eyeballing that as an option. There is all sorts of things. So you can find WrestlingOnTheRocks.com and click on the shirts. Bishop, where can someone get one of those terrible wrestling tees behind you?
TWTakesPodcast.com/TWTs. Check it out. My prices are actually just a little bit lower because I self-funded. I got them printed. They're at the house. But once they are done, I'm fully aligned with the Wrestling on the Rocks crew. I have a Teespring site as well. The brand new Bishop Was Right sweatshirt is available for the low price of $30. It was, again, to Marsh's point, keeping the profit so low. And I also take into account when the Teespring site, y'all got to pay shipping. Like that's an extra cost that we know you guys have to pay. And in that, to have, let's say, a $25 t-shirt is now a $32 t-shirt because it's $7 shipping. That's not fair to you guys. So having a, like Marsh said, a $13.50 t-shirt, it's only $20.50 for the t-shirt. If you get two, it's still just the $7 shipping. Now you get free shipping at twtakes.com/twts. I am running out of t-shirts though. That is a good thing. So you guys are buying. I do appreciate it. Also go over to the other link, the other page there, twtakes.com, and all my platforms are down the bottom. I'm all over the place. 140 episodes and doing the thing. Marsh, my friend, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we can make the schedules work so I can come chat with you guys. Beard, good seeing you again, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much,
all
man.
I got.
Thanks so much for coming on, and I also really appreciated you coming in and talking to me in my spaces. That was great.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah,
man.
thank you, man. I always
Got it.
appreciate your insight and I value your opinion, so I love having you on. I don't think your takes are terrible, so.
Well, they're nuancedly terrible. I believe if you used promo code DIVEBAR on TW Takes Podcast /TWT's website, twtakespodcast.com/TWTs.t/co UK, you can get, I think it's a pretty hefty discount, isn't it?
I think it's 25%. I don't know. Nobody's used it.
Yeah.
Even when you ordered, you didn't use it. So
I couldn't figure out how to use it. So I was like, fuck it.
I didn't
I just
use
pay
it.
for it. Yeah.
I don't think I used
but
it.
look, the five pack right now is $35.
That's what I was like,
$7
it's
a
worth
t-shirt.
it. I go, that's
It's
like,
$7 a t-shirt, and it's free shipping. So,
yeah, and it came
know,
fast. It came
hey.
fast.
that's what
That's
I do.
Bishop's trademark.
Absolutely. I come fast.
Okay.
The merch.
Guys, thank you for coming through and having a drink with us. You're drinking buddies. We got @beard_sports right here. Follow his YouTube, follow ours, like, subscribe, rate, give the stars, give the reviews, ring the bell. You can ring my bell. Ring my bell. What's up, producer? Staring at me. What's up?
You can also tip us.
You can give us tips over at WrestlingOnRocks.com. There's a donate button, or you can just go to the shop and buy stuff for us. Anything you buy us buys me a beer, and that is dope to me. We'll be back tomorrow night for a brand new episode 1 right here in the dive bar of the IWC. Guys, that's last call.
Cheers.
Hey, producer lady here. Thanks for tuning in. Continue to support us or buy us a drink by following and putting the I in subscribe on Twitch. Or subscribe and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Cheers!
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.